Hey, and welcome to the Streamlit course on YouTube. I'm recording this intro before I jump into the code, but I expect this course to be anywhere from 3 to 4 hours. We're going to cover everything from the basics all the way to advanced use cases of Streamlit, such as integrating it in with databases. There's also going to be 3 to 4 projects in it. Additionally, I build a lot of Streamlit applications at my full-time job as a risk and underwriting data scientist, and I also take on projects freelancing, and I've covered some of those on my Upwork series here on this channel. But if you are a business watching this video, or you're someone that has a Streamlit project you want to get completed, I do offer freelancing services, so make sure to hit up the link down below if you do need help with your Streamlit project. I have some availability right now. All the code in this video will be on our website, so make sure to check that out, as well as a full article covering some of the topics in this video. So with that out of the way, let's start going over Streamlit. Okay, so I'm going to be using VS Code for this video. Specifically, I'm using a Jupyter notebook in here. So we'll show you that. I built a brand new folder over here. The first thing you're going to do is install Streamlit. So there's a few different ways you could do this. You could run it right directly here in the terminal if you're using VS Code. If not, just open up command prompt. And we're going to type in here is pip install Streamlit. Install Streamlit like this. All right. And I already have it installed. Your first time installing it might take a little bit just because it's kind of a beefy Python package, but we have that on here. Okay. And the way that you could tell if it works properly or not is you type in Streamlit hello, and it might not work for you right out of the bat. And I'll show you, it doesn't actually work with me. So if I put over here Streamlit hello, you'll see it says Streamlit's not recognized. On my machine, I have to do Python M and then Streamlit hello, which is a little annoying. I know I could probably fix that, but I've been doing it so long on my machine. And just to show you, like, it opened up on my second screen, but you'll get this pop-up over here. And it says, welcome to Streamlit, right? Streamlit is an open source framework built specifically for machine learning and data science projects. Select a demo from the sidebar to see some examples of what Streamlit can do. Want to learn more? They have the Streamlit.io, which is the website, the documentation, community forums, all really good, by the way. I really like Streamlit's documentation. More complex demos, neural net, right? New York City rideshare data set. You can see that there's data frames in here. And again, we're going to cover a lot of this, right? We're going to cover our own version of a data frame demo. This is actually taking a little bit longer to run than I expected. It literally ran as soon as I did this. You can see we have this demo on here. Also the code that is associated with it. We have the plotting demo over here. And you can see we have a sidebar that goes all the way from 0 to 100. It has this over here. We have a map plot, right? So mapping demo over here. This demo shows how to use st.pydecchart to display geospatial data. And we have this over here. Here in California. And lastly, we have animation demo, right? Build cool animations. And I'll be honest with you guys, I haven't really messed with animations on Streamlit, so probably won't be using that in this course. But regardless, right, this is the demo that you should see right out of the bat, either Streamlit hello or Python-m Streamlit hello. Okay. So I'm just going to close this over here, and what we're going to do is start coding in VS Code. What we're going to want to do is create a new file. I'm going to call this app.py, and you'll see that this is pretty common when you work with Streamlit. The first thing we're going to do is import in Streamlit. So even though we did install it, you're going to have to import this in. So just call this over here and say import Streamlit as st. Okay. And the first thing that we should probably do is just write out some text over here. So what we're going to do is use a header, right? And what I'm going to do on this side of things is say st.header, and we'll just do the normal hello world like that. And then I'm going to save this, right? And then what I'm going to do on here is just open up the panel and go to the terminal. And what I'm going to say is python.m, right? And again, you might not need that. I'm going to say Streamlit run app.py, right? So this will run it, and you can say you can visit your Streamlit app in your browser. And if I go over here, right, you can see hello world has populated, right? So we have this under our localhost 8501. So if this doesn't open up right away, type this into your browser and you can see hello world is going to be on that side of things, right? Pretty awesome. Okay, so now let's add on to this, right? Let's make a change on here. And what we're going to do is see how this changes in real time, right? Re-execute it. So what we're going to do on here is have a title now. So st.title like this. And we're going to call this re-execution. I should actually put re-execution demo, right? And I'm just going to save this and I'm not going to run it again, right? You still see it's running. And then if I go over here, you'll see it says file change, rerun. And what you can do is select rerun and it auto populates this new code that we had, right? So it says re-execution demo, right? We essentially ran that over here. All right, next side of things, what I want to do is show you how to get input, which is super, super common. So what we can do is say name equals st.text input. So text input like this, right? And what we're going to say is enter your name. And I should say name equals, not name dash. So we have name equals st.text input, enter in your name. And then we're going to go over here and say if name, and we're going to say st.write. And we're going to put an F string over here. And we're going to say hello. And then we're going to say name, right? So this is going to pass in that name, right? So we grab the text input of a name. And if there's a name that exists, hello name, right? We're going to have an else statement, else, right? And we're going to say st.write, put over here, please type your name above. And then what we're going to have over here, say print script executed like this. Awesome. And what you'll notice also is, and you'll see this later on too, Streamlit was run top to bottom. So it's going to go line by line, right? So you have this text input. And once this input is put in, then you'll see this over here. And then you'll see that. So I'm going to save this over here. We're going to refresh our application, which again, it's super nice that we can just refresh this. We don't have to always say Streamlit run. So I'll just rerun this over here. And it says, enter your name, right? Please type your name above, right? Again, from this if else, right? So I'm just going to put over here Nolan. And it says, hello, Nolan, right over here. And you can see also down over here, it says script executed because we printed directly into the terminal and we didn't print directly into our application, right? So print will not print over here as I showed you with text. As I showed you with the text, right? We have our title, we have our header, and we put right. And all three of those worked on there. All right, so let's move into our next part. And we're going to be talking about using a few different types of elements with text. So what we're going to start off with is a title. So st.title, and we'll just put over here, this is a title. So this is a title. Then we're going to jump into our header. So st.header. And by the way, I'll show you what all this looks like in a second. So this is a header. Then what we're going to have is a subheader. So st.subheader. I'll put over here, this is a subheader. Okay. Now these are going to be bold and pretty big on your page. Let's talk about normal text. And there's three different types of normal text, right? Markdown, text, and write. So we're going to use markdown first. So st.markdown. And what I'm going to do is just copy in what I have over here, just so that way I don't make any errors. Because first time I recorded this, I made some errors. So what I essentially have is markdown with two of these stars, right? Underscore, underscore for is supported. Visit Streamlit with the link over to Streamlit. Then what we're going to do next is st.text, and we're going to say this is plain text, right? And let me just capitalize that. And then lastly, what we're going to have is st.write. And again, with like markdown, what I'm going to do is just copy this over because I did have a few formats in over here. So st.write can handle mixed content like bold, italic, and numbers. So I'm going to save this over here and I'm going to rerun this And that way you guys can see what this looks like. Let me drag this in. So this is our title, right? This is our header, subheader. So again, you can see title, bold, and a little bit larger than header. Header's a little bit larger than subheader. Markdown, bold, italic, supported. If you click visit Streamlit, you have a link over there. This is plain text, which is normal text. st.right, you can see that this is like essentially highlighted, can handle mixed content, right? Like bold, italic, and also numbers, right? So a lot of formatting opportunities over there for you guys, right? So now what we're gonna do is take a look at some other ways of formatted text, code blocks, latex. So we're gonna go over here is say st.markdown again. And over here, we're gonna have a code block. So we'll say code block example, right? And what we're gonna do is just enter in some basic code. So we'll say st.code, and we're gonna put 3 of these over here. And what we're gonna do over here is grab some Python code. So we'll say Python example like that, right? And then what we're gonna have over here is say def greet, pass in a name, so name like this. We're gonna say return hello name. That. We're gonna say print over here, greet. We're gonna pass in our Streamlit as our name, so Streamlit like that. All right, we're gonna close this out. 1, 2, 3. And we're gonna define our language. So language equals Python, like that. All right, hopefully no errors over here. Then what we're gonna do next is st.markdown again, and we're gonna use latex. Just grab this in over here. Right, so inline latex, a squared plus b squared c squared, very common from algebra. Again, I don't want to make mistakes, so I'm just gonna paste this in. So this is how that side of things, right? And let me rerun this again. Hopefully no errors on this Python code. And again, you can just grab this also from the article. And let me rerun this. Sweet. All right, so you can see we have our code block, right? So we have our comment in over here. We have our function, which this is actually tabbed over a little bit too much, but that's okay. And then we have print over here, greet Streamlit. Then we have our inline latex, right? A squared plus b squared c squared, right? And then we have some advanced calculus. What is that, Calc 1 or Calc 2? I'm sure everyone has different calcs, but back in the day, I took Calc 1, Calc 2, Calc 3, differential equations, and I used to do math competitions. So back in the day, I used to study to try to solve questions like that. Long time. It's been 10 years, but regardless, we have those examples over here. And then let's take a look at some feedback messages. So what we're going to do is say st.success, right? This is a success message. One that I use all the time is st.warning. So st.warning and say be careful. This is a warning. And the reason why I use that is within risk and underwriting. There's specific industries that you can't sign on. So based around an industry that might go through our underwriting side of things, if the industry matches, I'll warn our underwriters with a message like that. st.error, so error, something went wrong. And then you have st.info, right? This is information. Okay, and you can also use markdown in this instance too. So I'm just gonna say st.markdown. And then what I'm gonna do is just grab in my code that I already have over here to the side. So essentially tip, use feedback messages to guide the user. And you'll see how all these work. So I'll save this, then I'll refresh my app. Let's bring this in over here. Again, you can use these in a lot of instances, but you can see this is success. This is careful, right? Warning, something went wrong. This is information. And you could also use this markdown on that side of things. So for this small subsection, right, we covered title, header, subheader, markdown, plain text, right, a code block, right, latex, and then some of these over here, success, warning, something went wrong, information, as well as markdown once again. All right, so for this section, we're gonna be taking a look at buttons, radio, checkboxes, different things like that. So let's get started. So what we're gonna start off with over here is we're gonna say if st.button. We're gonna start off with this and say click me. And then next we're gonna say st.writes button clicked, all right? Next, we're gonna take a look at on this side of things as a radio. So say choice equals st.radio. Choose an option. Let's go back to some of my favorites and do some bands. So we'll start off with Billy Strings. Then we'll do 9-inch nails. And then we'll do Trivium. And then we'll go st.writes. You selected, and then grab the choice, right? Which is right up over here. And actually, you selected needs to be there like this, okay? And then we're gonna do a checkbox, right? So say agree equals st.checkbox, like that. We'll put over here, I agree. And then we're gonna say if agree st.writes, right? Thanks for agreeing, right? Very basic on these three. We're gonna save those. And then what I will do is drag over our Streamlit app, or I guess I can just put it over here. And a little typo over there, that's okay. What did my typo is line 7. I forgot to put right. I put right with an extra O. All right, we'll rerun it. It's not a big deal. All right, cool. So we're gonna have this over here. So first, click me. So this is our button, right? When I say click me, button clicked. Next, we choose an option, right? I have Billy Strings right now. I just hanged up a Billy Strings poster. 9-inch nails. Just released a brand new song. Trivium, about to release a new EP, right? Choose one of those options. And then over here, I agree. Thanks for agreeing, right? So you can add quite a lot to your apps with just these three, but I'm not just gonna stop there. So let's keep moving forward. So next, what we're gonna do is take a look at selectors, right? Select boxes or multi-select. So let me, I'll clear these out just to give us a little bit more space. And then we're gonna do over here, let's say genre equals, we'll say st.selectbox, select box like this. I'm gonna say pick a genre. And over here, we'll put 3 of my favorite genres. So we'll put metal, rock, and bluegrass. All right, then what we're gonna do is st.write your favorite genre is, and then we're gonna grab the genre. Right, very similar to what we did a little bit earlier with choice. Then what we can have over here is multi-select. So we can literally do something very similar. So we'll say metal subgenre, right? And we're gonna say this is equal to st.multi-select like this. we're going to say pick your favorite metal genres. And then in over here, what we'll do is pass these in. So I'll say like, I don't know, thrash, metal, death metal, say like metalcore as another one. Metalcore, like that. Okay. And then we can say st.write. Again, your favorite metal genres are, I'll say like metal subgenre. All right. So now let's take a look at select versus multi-select. So I'll rerun that over here. And then check this out. So pick a genre, right? So metal, rock, and then bluegrass, and then pick your favorite metal genres. So I chose death metal, I chose thrash metal, and both of those are populating down below over here. All right, awesome. So we know both of those are working. And what we'll do next over here is use inputs like a slider, number input, text input, different things like that. So again, I am just going to clear this section off and let's jump right into it. Take a look at inputs and clear out that section and let's jump right into it. So let's start off with age, right? So age equals st.slider, right? Oops, slider. Select your age, select your age like that. We'll go 0, 100, 25. And then we'll put over here st.write age like that. All right. And I do have an error message over here. Not closed. Must be a caching issue because that is closed. Weird. Hopefully it doesn't error me out. Next we'll do a number on this side of things. We'll say number equals st.number input. So number input like this. Put in over here, enter a number. Okay, we'll enter a number. Then we're going to do a set a minimum value. So min value equals 0. So like we can't have any negative values. We'll say max value is 100. And then we'll put our default value, which is what that 25 is over here. Value equals 10. Over there. And then again, we'll similar do this. st.write number, just pass in our number. Okay, then we're going to do text input. So we'll say name this time. So name equals st.text input. Like that. We'll say enter your name. That's all right. And what we'll do next is just write this out. So st.write for here. Hello. The name again. All right. And lastly, we'll do a text area. So like imagine someone had a bio. So equals st.text area. Write a lot more. I'll put over here, write a short bio like that. And we'll say st.write your bio. Let's put the bio over here. All right. Hopefully these don't error out. And I'm just going to rerun this over here. I do have a small error. I'm just going to fix that really fast, because I know why I had my error. Forgot a comma over here. So hopefully that works now. And same thing over here. When I just put that st.write, let's add in these other commas that I forgot. And just to show you really quick, if you do get an error, like you can see on this side of things, it tries to point to where your error is if it's simple. And it's awesome. Perhaps you forgot a comma. All right, it should work now. Great. And you can see, right, with the slider, we put 25, and that was our default number. That was our default number, right? Drag this back in over here. So you can select your age. We start at 0, go through 100, although no one at the age 0 is going to be using this app, right? 100 euros or 0. And we printed out the age. You can enter in a number. And you can also specify, like, if you want this to go up like in a 10th place or 100th place or stuff like that. You have that flexibility, right? Again, we can write a bio or name. So you can just type in stuff over here, right? So name, we'll put into some junk like that. Few, I don't know. I just spammed. And same thing over here, right? Like I just spammed that over there. And then there is your bio. All right, so I removed this. Let's bump into date and time. So what we're gonna do is date equals, and we're gonna say st.date input. So date input, we'll say over here, pick a date like this. All right, st.write over here, selected dates, and we'll grab our dates. All right, now let's do time. So we'll say time equals st.time input. Input like this. So we'll say pick a time. st.write over here, selected time. Time like that. So date input, time input. We'll save those and let's rerun this. All right, then you can see over here, right, pick a date. So 2025, 7/19, that is today, Saturday. Some mention other videos. I spend my weekends making videos for you guys, right? So if you enjoy it, make sure to subscribe to the channel. These do take time to make. If I want to do the 10th, right, I want to do the 4th. So you essentially have this date picker. Additionally, you can pick times, right? By default, this is out of 24-hour time, military time. So you can see no one, you have 13 instead on that side of things. All right, let's continue moving forward. We're going to take a look at a file uploader now. So let me remove all of this and we'll keep moving forward. So what we're going to say is uploaded file equals st.file uploader. So file uploader like that. We're going to say upload a text file, type equals, and just put text over here like that. And it should be actually in quotes. So let me fix that. TXT. All right. Then what we're going to say is we're going to have an if statement. So if uploaded file is not none, content equals uploaded file.read. We can decode it also, not rad, but read dot decode UTF-8 st.text area. And don't worry guys, we'll cover CSVs and Excel files a little bit later. We'll just keep it basic with text here. So file content, man, my typos today. File content height equals 200. All right, let's create a text file. So I'm just gonna load this up over here. Let's load up Notepad. Nothing can stop me now. File, save as, and we'll just save this as like a lyric. All right, so we have that over there. And then what we'll do is take a look at our Streamlit app again. So we have this over here. I'll refresh it. So you can drag and drop a file. So you can browse files or drag and drop, either one of those. I am just gonna find where I save this at for lyric. drag it in, and you can see file content. Nothing can stop me now. So we covered a lot in this small subsection, right? We started off with some of the different buttons, right? Choices, a checkbox, then jumped into a select versus multi-select. After that, slider, number input, text input, and then finally date and time input, followed by a file input. Let's jump into our next section. All right, so for this new section, we're going to do is take a look at tables and data frames. So what we're going to do now is instead of just import Streamlit as ST, we're going to add to this and we're going to say import pandas as PD. Now, if you haven't used pandas before, highly recommend you learn how to use it. In fact, we have like 30 plus videos on the channel demonstrating pandas, and we'll have a course here in the future. But essentially what pandas allows you to do is work with data frames. You can think of these as like Excel sheets, and it really opens up a ton of automation opportunities. You'd be shocked at how many things can be automated in the workplace once you know Python pandas and you know how to use Streamlit. I mean, some of the stuff I've built in my full-time job saved 10 to 20 hours every single week for my department, if not more. So highly recommend you learn how to use pandas. Again, no pressure at all, but we're going to be showing you in this video tables and data frames. So what we're going to do first is we're going to just add in some data over here. So what we're going to do is create a dictionary. We're going to say data equals, and then we're going to first pass in some names. So name, and over here we'll have Alice, Bob, Charlie. We'll have age and city next. So I actually do need a comma over here. Go to that next line, say age. Again, pass in a list of ages. Let's say 25, 30, 35. And lastly, cities, city, right? New York, London, and Paris. London, Paris, like that. And then we'll create a data frame, right? So we'll say df equals pd.data frame and pass in our data like that. All right, so now we have our data frame, right? So you just pass in a dictionary into this, and it creates a data frame for you. So we'll just say st.write for the data frame. So I'm just gonna copy this in over here. So using st.write for data frame, and then just say st.write and then pass in our data frame df over here. Okay, and then what we're gonna also do is take a look at table. So we're gonna go over here and say st.table, right? And this is gonna be a static table. So we'll just say over here, st.write, say static table. And I know I just completely butchered that, but that's okay. So we'll have static table over here. And then next what we'll have over here, interactive data frame. Now there's different use cases for each of these, and I'll show you what this looks like. So data frame like that. Cool. So I'll save that. We'll refresh our code. And let's take a look at all three of these. So three different approaches, right? So first is using st.write for our data frame. And maybe I should just put the 3 pound signs for these two. You can see all of these have our index. We have options to remove the index or not. But you can see what's really nice is when we go into our data frame, right? We can actually sort the order. So you can see it goes Charlie, Bob, Alice, or Alice, Bob, Charlie, right? Age, same thing. City, things like that, where you don't have that option on the static table, right? It prints out the results, but you don't have that flexibility. And you might wonder like, oh, well, why don't we just always do this, right? Well, like imagine you have like inputs in some of the different stuff that I showed you in the previous part, right? And you just want to show specific rows in your data frame, right? It might not be the best approach to let people sort those. Maybe you want them in a specific order based off of their index, right? And again, like you can see that there's a lot of stuff you could do over here. You can even auto size it, whatnot, where these are in place, right? Again, there's some stuff you can do on here too with st.write. But when we go to our static table, you cannot do anything, right? It just prints it out over here. So Sometimes I'll use the data frame. Sometimes I'll use the static table. It just really depends on your use case. And again, you can use st.write for data frame as well, right? Same thing. Just go over here, go over here. Whereas table, that does not have that option for you. Okay, so now let's take a look at two other things, which are going to be JSON and dictionaries. JSON is very popular if you're working with APIs or working with AI. So let's take a look at that on this side of things. So what we're going to do is create another dictionary. We'll say person equals, and we'll pass in over here name. We'll go the first name over here. So we'll do Alice again. Age 25. Age 25, and we'll put skills. Put the skills over here of Python, Streamlit, and data science. All right, now what we're going to do is say st.json, our person over here, and then we'll say st.write on this side of things, say dictionary displayed with st.write, and then we'll just pass in person like that. All right, so that's our JSON and dictionary, right? Dictionary and then JSON. So we'll save that. We'll take a look at what that looks like now. So just go back over here and you can see how these look, right? Dictionary with st.write, and then we have our JSON on this side of things. Again, nearly identical. And then what we'll take a look at next is editable tables. So we'll say editable df equals st.data editor. And what we're going to do is pass in df. So I'll bring df back in over here. I have my example code over here to the right. We'll say number of rows equals dynamic, right? And then we'll say st.write updated data frame, and then we'll have st.write editable df. All right, and then we just pass in our data frame again. So just grab this code over here. Great, we have this, and now let's jump back into our Streamlit code. So I'll rerun this over here, and now what we can do is start editing stuff, right? So let's just say everyone got 1 year older, 26. 31, right? 36. You can see this has been updated also based off of what's been over here. Let's say person moved from New York to Washington, from London to Bath, Paris to Nice, also has been updated on that side of things. And you can also add in new stuff over here. New names. So let's say Ryan, 27. We'll put Orlando, right? That has been updated. And let's say at the age of 30, I moved to Denver to go trail running. You can see that has been updated as well, which is pretty awesome flexibility on that side of things. But you can probably download this a little bit later. And you can also just click download right here, download this as a CSV file. You want to make any modifications within this data frame, right? So again, just kind of a brief recap. I showed you table as well as a data frame, right? You can pass in your data frame to write. And again, you have all that flexibility. Table is pretty static. Showed you JSON versus printing a dictionary, which gave you the same result over here. And then I showed you an editable data frame and then just printed out the editable data frame. And again, right, you can sort this over here, right? This you can't sort, but this down over here, since we're doing the st.write, we can sort it. So we can edit this insert this down below over here. And again, you can just download these if you really want to. And yeah, a lot of flexibility. You can search these. There's a lot that you could do with data frames, at least in Streamlit. And again, we're only on like part 3 of part 1. Like there's still another 25 lessons we're going to be going through in this course. So tons to cover. And yeah, we're going to jump into our next section. All right, so now let's talk about containers, columns, as well as expanders. So let's start off with our code on that. And what I will say is it really helps you organize the display of your Streamlit app. I've had a client once where you wanted to have like 3 or 4 different charts in one line, and things like this could help out. All right, so what we're going to do is start off with st.container like this, all right? And we're going to say st.write. This is inside a container. And then we're going to set some columns up. So we'll have over here column 1, and then we'll have column 2 like that. And we're going to say equals st.columns, and we're going to pass in 2. Then we're going to say with col1 over here. st.writes column 1 content, and then we'll have column 2. It's the same exact thing, right? We're just showing you how it separates the columns over here, and then we'll say with st.expander. We're gonna have more info. And we'll say st.write hidden content revealed when expanded. All right, now let's take a look at what this looks like. So I'll just refresh this over here, rerun it. So this is inside a container, column 1 content, column 2, and more info. Although this works, I do have a bug over here, so let's fix that really fast. And my bug, by the way, is I had column 1 twice. Forgot to change it to column 2. I'm like, why is this not changing? And well, that's the case. So now if we rerun this, you can see column 2 content, column 1. This is inside a container. And then we have this more info that is dragged in. And we have this more info, which shows up when you click over here to the side. Now let's talk about a sidebar. So I'll just keep this over here, and we're going to say option equals st.sidebar, and we're going to do a select box over here. Okay, now let's take a look at using a sidebar. We're going to say option equals st.sidebar like that. We're going to say select box, and then over here we're going to say select page like this, and you can choose different pages, right? Let's say home, settings, about. We'll see st.sidebar.write. We'll put over here sidebar content here. And then we'll put over here on our main page, st.write. We'll say f-string, so f-string current page, and we'll grab that, select that option. So grab option like that. All right, I'm actually going to remove this up over here. We'll just keep this over here on that side of things. Now let's rerun this. And forgot a comma, so let's rerun that again. We'll save that and rerun. Cool. So check this out now. I accidentally kept more info, but that's fine. We'll choose home, settings, about, and this is getting changed based off of this sidebar. Now the sidebar, some people love it, some people don't, but you have this over here. And typically when you have multiple pages in an app, right, you can select those pages right over here. I say sidebar content here because you can add a lot more stuff. And you can also collapse that sidebar or open that up as well, right? put those options over here. And you can see stuff that you change in the sidebar can impact that main page over here. Awesome. So now what we're going to do is take a look at some dividers and captions. So let me remove all of this over here. We'll put st.right above the divider, and then we'll put a divider in. So st.divider, right? And that's essentially gonna be the horizontal line in over here. Then we'll set a caption, so st.caption, and then this is a small text. This is a small caption text below, right? Pretty self-explanatory. We will save that. And now you can see this is above the divider. We have our divider over here, and then we have a small caption, which you can have down below on this side of things. We're making great progress, guys. We're just a few lessons away from our first project in here, which I'm super excited to share with you guys. So let's keep moving forward. All right, so in this section, we're gonna be going over images, videos, as well as like audio, things like that. Now, won't use audio as much, but we'll jump through it. Okay, so let's get started. We're gonna have a few more imports this time. So we're gonna say from PIL, import in an image. Still have pandas as PD, import numpy as NP, and then import matplotlib.pyplot as PLT. All right, we're gonna start with displaying an image. So we're gonna say image equals image.new. We're just gonna create an image over here. We'll say RGB. Again, there's a lot of different ways to create images nowadays, especially with AI, but we're just gonna do old school over here, not use any tokens. Color equals sky blue. Then st.image mg caption equals simple image. Then over here, we're gonna put use container width, and we'll say equals true. Let's take a look at that side of things. So refresh this over here, and you can see we have populated an image in over here on that side of things. Again, you can like specify an image over here to the side, drag and drop, and bring that in as well, right? Open it up. Let's take a look at like a simple line chart now. So I'm just gonna remove that over here. And we're gonna say data equals pd.dataframe. We're just gonna create some random data. So np.random.randn, like that. Do 20 to 3. And then we'll say over here, columns equals A, B, C. And we'll go over here and say st.lineChart, pass in our data. Now we can take a look at a line chart on here, rerun. And what's really nice is it tells us our values and different things like that. We can also make this full screen, right? We can go over here and save this as an image type if we wanted to. So I'll bring that back over here, right? What we can also do is take a look at video and audio. Audio file goes open. And what you would want to do is pass an audio file over here. So say like sample audio.mp3. I'm not going to actually upload an mp3 file, but you'd also want to drag it into this folder over here. I'll just put RB like that. If false, else none. If false, else none. You can essentially do the same thing for video. We'll use like an MP4. So video file, right? We'll just put sample video.mp4. RB, the same thing. And you can format it down over here as well. So if audio file, right? st.audio, audio file dot read, and then set your format. So format equals audio MP3. And like I said, I've not used this on the app yet. It's always possible, but I don't really work with audio stuff. I have video file, right? Same thing. I haven't embedded in a video. st.video, video file.read. I know I misspelled stuff, but I just put video. Cool. So you would have it like that. I'm not going to run this. What I will show you though is embedding in a YouTube video, because that's pretty easy. So it's st.video. And then literally you can just pass in a YouTube video link. I'm just going to go to my channel right now and grab a video, and we'll run that. So let me just go over here. I'll go view my channel, and I'll grab my other channel. So I don't get to post it that much on here. So, okay, here is that one.
All right, guys, we are in Rhode Island for the Cranston Card Show. Super excited to be here. I've heard from a lot.
I don't know why it's playing the audio over there, but that's all right. Anyways, we have the video over here, the link. I'm going to save that, and then I'm just going to load up my Streamlit app again. And yeah, so I did an auction recap for non-sports cards, something I collect. So, all right, guys, we're at the vintage non-sports. Not much editing, just going through these lots at an auction. And yeah, so there is that side of it over here, and you can see I have some recommended videos over there as well. All right, that is the audio, images, and video section. And what we're going to do next is take a look at some more advanced Markdown. All right, and now let's take a look at our next section. So this would be embedding raw HTML data. And let's just remove all this over here. And yeah, let's jump into it. So we'll have HTML code, and we'll put over here, again, 3 of these. And yeah, we'll jump right into it. So you won't have to use this often. Occasionally you're gonna have to use this type of styling if a customer asks for it. But we'll say div style background color. And then we'll put that over here as light yellow. You can set padding. We'll say 10 pixels. Then we'll go over here and do H3 tags. H3. Custom HTML block. H3. That. You can do paragraph. Style that paragraph. Color green. This is green text within a div. Close the paragraph tag. Is that there? Then close our div. Like that. And then what we'll do is st markdown. We'll pass in our HTML code into our markdown. Then we'll say unsafe allow HTML equals true, right? And let's see if this works or not. Again, not always the best approach over here, but yeah. And just to show you this over here, this is green text within a div. Can't really see too much going on that side of things. I may change this background color. Maybe we'll put like red and green. I guess we were doing Christmas colors. We'll rerun this over here. That looks a little bit better. I am colorblind, by the way, so can't see everything. But regardless, you have that working on that side of things. And we're ready to jump into our first project. So project's going to be pretty easy. We're going to take a look at that here shortly. All right, guys. So what we're going to do is take a look at building out a resume app with Streamlit. And this is going to be our first of 4 mini projects within this course. So let's jump into it. All the skills you should have learned so far along the way. And we're going to start off with importing both Streamlit and Pandas. So import Streamlit as ST and then import Pandas as PD. Okay, now what we're going to do is create a sidebar. And we can do st.sidebar instead of title over here. So title, and we'll just call this navigation. So we have navigation. And then we'll create our sections on this over here. So let's say section equals st.sidebar.radio, radio buttons. Then we'll go over here and say go to. And then feel free to put in different sections, right? So let's say like about, we'll have skills, we'll have experience, education, and we'll make a contact page as well. Education, let's say we want to create a contact page. Okay, and then what we want to do is start filling out skills. So and over here for skills, we'll say skills equals, and we can just put a few different skills, right? So let's say these are going to be out of 100%. So it'll be like Python, okay, 0.8. All right, next one, let's do machine learning, right? Machine learning, say 0.8. Also, we'll say Streamlit. We'll put this as like 0.9. Then we'll put like SQL 0.7, and then we'll put like data visualization. Again, like this is just a mock project, doesn't matter. And we'll say like 0.8 again. All right, cool. Then over here, we're gonna set header. So st.title, put your name in here. So I'll just put like Ryan, and then set a subheader. And then what we'll have over here is say data scientist. That. Okay, and now what we're gonna do over here is create an if-elif, and we're gonna essentially have for each of these different sections in here some information that will populate, right? So let me just save this really quick before we jump into that and show you what this looks like. So I'm just going to click rerun. And what we have over here is Ryan. We have data scientist, and then we have all these about, skills, education, contact, experience, right? And this is our navigation, which we'll be using for the application, right? So we have the skeleton ready to go. Let's jump into the next side, right? Which is going to be building out each of these. Now we've already kind of got ahead by putting skills above over here, but it doesn't really matter too much, right? So what I'm gonna do is scroll down and let's start. So we're gonna say if section equals about, right? So equals about, and then we're gonna write information in on that side of things, right? So I'm just gonna build out the framework for this first before we jump into each section. We're gonna say elif, and then we'll put section equals, and I'm gonna copy this a few times. So since we have what, 1, 2, 3, 5 pages, we'll just do this for 5 times, right? So we'll say elif section equals, and we're just gonna build these out, right? So 3, 4, 5, and then change these for each of these. So we already did about, right? Put skills, we'll have experience, right? We'll have education, and then lastly, we'll have contact. All right, so now we have essentially what's going to happen if any of these radios or buttons are clicked, right? So now we need to actually build out these sections. So write something about you. So let's say st.markdown, markdown like that. And then inside over here, we'll put an f string. So f string like this. And then just, again, write what you want, right? And I'll put 3 quotes like that. Close this out, 3 like this. And then what I'm gonna do is just copy over what I have over here. Again, kind of gibberish, but doesn't really matter too much. Experienced data scientist with strong skills in analytics, machine learning, and storytelling with data, passionate about turning data into actionable insights. I would never put that on my actual resume, but for this video, that is perfectly fine. And if you know what I mean, check out one of our resume videos. We've critiqued other people's resumes here on the channel. Because honestly, this gives you really nothing. But again, this is just a demo. We're going to go through it. All right. So next, what we're going to do, and I should say demo, this is kind of like a small project to learn Streamlit, but also kind of a demo. All right. So what we're going to do for our skills section is set over here, create a header. So we'll say st.header, and we're going to say skills overview. So skills overview, and then let's jump into it. So we're going to say for skill and level in skills.items. And why we're doing that, again, like we have a dictionary, right? We have each skill, and then we have like the level associated with the skill. So that's why we're grabbing both the skill and the level, and we're grabbing items, which is both of those together, right? So we're gonna do over here, st_right, and then we're gonna say f over here, and we're gonna say skill, so skill like that. All right, and then we're gonna say st.progress. We're gonna pass in our level, right? And then we're gonna create a data frame. So we're gonna say df skills equals pd.dataframe. And over here, what we're gonna do is say skill. So skill, and we're gonna go over here to list skills.keys, right? And then what we're gonna do on here is go proficiency. And then we're going to say list skills.values like that. All right. And then lastly, what we're going to do is create a bar chart. So in over here, we'll see st.bar chart. Then we're going to pass in df skills. So df skills.set index skill. And then there we go. All right. So now this is probably going to bug out if I don't put anything here. I'm just going to write like work in progress, st.write. I just want to make sure this is working properly. So I'm just going to write work in progress for each of these. But we're going to take a look at the skills and then also about just to make sure it's working, right? Okay, so save that. I'm going to rerun this over here. And then if you take a look, our navigation, right? We have our little bit about section. Then we go over here to skills. You can see I actually do have an error right now. These all show skill, but these are working. So I'm going to fix this bug really fast for you guys. And then we'll jump also into experience. And really fast, the error I had, I forgot to pass in skill over here. I just had skill as just text. So make sure you make that change. Because you go over here, you see Python, machine learning, Streamlit, SQL, and then also data visualization. All right, so we have those up over here. We're in a good spot, right? Again, going back over here, I can switch between about and skills quite easily. Experience, education, and contact are all works in progress. So let's jump into those sections. So we're going to start with our experience section. So again, we're going to just set up a header, right? st.header, and we can just say something called like work experience. Right. And then over here, you would want to put in your work experience. So what we're going to do is with st.expander. So we can take a look at what an expander looks like. And we'll put f string over here and say data scientist, put in your company, right? And then put in your start date. And then I'll say, when did I start my most recent job? I think it was June 2023. So I just hit 2 years. I won't put the company name. I mean, you can see it if you go to LinkedIn, but I'll go over here and say st.write, and then write some attributes of like what you've done at your company, right? I'm just gonna say over here, right? Built 5 Streamlit apps in production. Built 30 plus dashboards for risk and underwriting. Developed, I don't know, 20 DBT models. Again, 100% would not put this on my actual resume like this, but we're just doing this for demo. Okay. And then let's say we want to do our second job, right? Second or third job. So maybe I want to put YouTuber Ryan and Matt, data science. I actually started this a month or 2 months before. So I'll put like April 2023. I'll also make sure we have dashes like that. And again, just like have fun with it, right? And I'll go in over here and say created over 200 data videos, right? I don't know. Full Python pandas course. Full scikit-learn course. Right? Again, be detailed as you want. I'll put that in there, and you can put a third if you want. I'll put my first job in over here as well. And what I'll do is put my data analyst job, which I worked at a tax software company. So tax software company. I'm not going to put the actual one in there. And then when did I start that? It was 2021. I want to say it was around like April 2021. Maybe March, April 2021, somewhere around there. I'd have to look at my LinkedIn. And again, just put what you want over here. So like worked with executive team on software pricing and sales, right? Looked over fraud and risk concerns with legal. Again, like if I was going to actually present this, I would put a lot more effort. I just not putting much in here. Okay, so now we have that section over here. Well, I will save that and I will show you what this looks like. So we're going to go over here to experience, right? And all these are just drop downs, right? So you can see how that worked out. Built 5 Streamlit apps in production, built 30 plus dashboards, they all have 20 DBT models, right? And you can drag and drop every single one of those. And just to fix one minor thing for formatting, make sure that you have a space after each of these because I have a small bug. So I just fixed that. And you can see like when I did it for the first one, we have that. And when I rerun it, right, we have a bullet point, space, and each of those. So way better formatting, right? Again, I'm gonna make small mistakes in these videos, but it's okay. And then you can close it, open it, right? It doesn't really matter too much. So there is that section. What we're gonna do now is work on our education, right? So let's just write everything out on our education side of things. So we'll just say st.header. We're gonna put over here as education, right? And what I have on this side of things is a bachelor's, which I guess you could just put over here, BS in electrical engineering, University of Central Florida, 2020. Yep, so there you go, a COVID graduation. And back in 2020, 5 years ago, I graduated with my degree, which still feels like yesterday, right? On that side of things, I don't have a master's in computer science or data science or data engineering. I don't know. They have a lot of different master's programs now. And yeah, just a bachelor's in electrical engineering. Switch from EE into data analytics. Didn't really enjoy EE as much, but I did learn a lot. All right. Lastly, what we're going to do is build out a contact section. And what we're going to do on here is say st.header. We'll put over here to get in touch. I'm not going to show education really quick because it's literally just one line essentially. So we'll just say get in touch. And you could honestly put education in the about section if you wanted to. Anyways, we'll say get in touch. We'll set multiple columns. So say column 1, column 2, and we're going to say this is equal to st.columns. We'll pass in 2 over here. Okay. And my error really quick just to fix this. All right. So we have our 2 columns. Set these over here with column 1, which by the way, you don't have to always have these in order, right? If you want to specify column 2 before column 1, if code in column 2 needs to be run before column 2, or sorry, reword this again. These don't always have to be in order, column 1, column 2. Like if you have code that needs to be run in column 2 before column 1, like you can start with column 2. I don't know if I mentioned that a little bit earlier, but either way, I just did that for a customer last night. So felt like I wanted to put that in over here. We're going to say email equals st.text inputs, text input. We'll pass an email, right? Then what we'll have next on here is phone. So phone equals st.text input, pass in our phone, right? So we have email and our phone for column 1. Then we'll set column 2. And to do that, just go over here. So we'll say with column 2, and then we'll have LinkedIn equals st.text input. We'll say LinkedIn URL. And then we have our portfolio. So portfolio equals st.text input. That, and then we'll say like portfolio URL. And then we'll also have like Discord equals st.text input. And you'll put like Discord, Discord name. All right. And then lastly, what we're going to do over here is say message equals st.text area, like that. We'll call this message. Then we'll go over here and do an if statement. So if st button, we'll write send, and then we'll set up a success, right? So we'll say st.success. Thanks for reaching out. I'll be in contact soon. And obviously this doesn't go anywhere, but it's fine. Just shows you buttons and stuff like that. So I'll save this. We'll load this up over here to the side, rerun it, hopefully no errors. So education, right? Super basic page. And then contact, you can see we have a contact form with 2 columns, right? Column. And yeah, this looks really, really nice. And again, there's a lot that you could do, right? You could click send, and then you send this data elsewhere, right? You want to send it to a database. You can send it over into an API. Like there's a lot of different ways that you could do it. But yeah, so this is your basic project, right? We have our navigation in the sidebar, and no, this is our first of 4. There's going to be some other projects as well, probably about this type of length on the projects, nothing like too extreme. Maybe we'll do like an hour or 2-hour one if this video does well. And also I already have a 2-hour one on the channel, so you guys could check that one out. But I would recommend doing that after you finish this course. But yeah, that is part 1 of the course. We're going to move on to part number 2 right now. All right, guys, we are in the second part of this course. We're going to start off by taking a look at session state, which can store user interactions. So we're going to just create its basic title on here. So st title, call it session state demo. And let's get started. So we're going to start off with a counter. So if counter, we're going to say not in st.session state like this. Let's say st.session state counter equals 0. Okay. And then we're going to have a button. So if st.button, we're going to increment this. So increment. And we're going to say over here, st.session state counter plus equals 1. All right, so I'm going to save this. We're going to take a look at our Streamlit app. All right, so what we have over here is increments, and nothing's on here as of yet, right? So let's keep moving forward. Then what we're going to do after here is say st.write. So st.write, we're going to say counter value. And then we're just going to get the session state, st.session state like that, .counter. All right, I'm going to save this and we are going to run this. Okay, and you can see right now we have a counter value of 0, 1, 2, 3, and we can keep increasing this counter value based off of the session state, right? So we're going to keep adding it to this code. And then what we're going to have next is take a look at a name example. So you can use session state for login. And we can say if name, and also probably not the best approach, but again, you could use that technically. And we're going to say if name not in st.session state. I say st.session state.name equals guest. All right. And then what we're going to do over here is say name input. We're going to use a name input over here. We're going to say this is equal to st.text input. So text input, we'll enter in a name. So enter in your name. We're going to save this as a session state name. So st.session state.name. All right, so this is our name, right? And then we're going to say if name input not equal to st.session state.name, right? We go over here and say session name is equal to our name input. Name input. Okay. And I should also say st for each of these. So what we're doing, right? And let me just kind of put some comments over here to break this up. So if we don't have a name, right, the name is going to be guest in this session state, right? We're going to enter in a name, and then that name is now going to be whatever we entered in, right? So what you'll see, we'll go over here, is say st.session state. Oh, I should say st.write. I apologize. So what we'll do then is st.write. We're going to say hello. And we're going to pass in the session state name. So st.session name like that. We grab that over here. We actually don't need this first part of the demo anymore. So we can move that over here. I'll save this and I'll run it, right? So if no errors, what you'll see is we have guest over here. Then I can put in my name, right? Ryan. Then we can put my name in, Ryan, and it says, hello, Ryan, right? By default, the session state that we define over here, right? If we don't have a name in the session state, it's guest, right? This enter in your name, it grabs the session state name, which is guest, put in Ryan over here, and then we changed it to hello, Ryan, right? Okay, now let's take a look at some conditional logic based off of the user state. So what we're going to do is a very basic login. As I mentioned, like you could do this for login, although again, there's way better approaches, right? So we're going to say if logged in, not in st.session state, right? We're going to say st.session state.logged in equals false, right? And we're going to say if not st.session state dot logged in, if st.button, we're going to put a login over here. All right. st.session state dot logged in equals true. All right, we're going to say st.success. You are now logged in. We're going to have our else statement. Some of this is going to be the same. So I'm going to say else. Need that. And turn this to false because what we're going to do is log out, right? So ft.bedin over here, we're going to have a log out. And we're going to write over here st.write welcome back. So we're just building out a simple login, log out, right? So if logged in, not in session state, login's false, right? If not in session state login, we have to log in, right? The 6 session state is now true. You're logged in, right? Else, welcome back, right? Because someone's logged in, right? They're logged in. And we have a logout button. And then session state logged in over here after this logout is false, right? So log in, log out. This is going to be in our code now in our Streamlit app. So you can see over here, right? So we're in our logout session state. If I click over here, logged in, it says you are now logged in, right? And logged out, right? Log in, log out, right? We have built that out. All right, in this section, we're going to be talking about reading CSV, Excel, as well as JSON files. So let's jump into it. So we already have Streamlit as ST. Let's import in pandas. So import pandas as PD. And then we're going to import JSON over here. Let's get a title for this, st.title. We're going to say file, upload, and preview. And let's jump right into it, right? So what we're going to do is set a file uploader. So we're going to say uploaded file equals st.file uploader. We're going to have that over here. We're going to say upload a CSV, Excel, or JSON file. And what's nice is you can specify what type of file someone has to enter in. So we're going to say type over here equals, and then we could have our CSV, right? CSV, if it's Excel, XLSX, or if it's a JSON file, JSON like that, right? And obviously I need to put single quotes around JSON for this to work. All right, and then we can do some conditional logic based off of the file, right? So we can say if uploaded file like this, and we're going to say if uploaded file.name, and we can do ends with, and we can look for CSV, so .csv, right? And we can have some logic based around that. What I would do is just copy this really quick and just do this for the others, right? And we'll just go over here. We'll change this to elif. We'll have XLSX, and JSON, right? And we'll change these to elif, as well as elif. Okay. And then let's write our logic over here. So we already have, if it's a CSV, we'll create a data frame. We'll say df equals pd.read CSV, our uploaded file. So pass in our uploaded file, right? And we're going to say st.write CSV preview. We're going to say that. And I accidentally click enter. That's okay. We'll go back over here and say CSV preview. So CSV preview. And then we're going to say st.dataframe. We'll do a head, right? df.head. And head will only show the first few rows, right? If you're not familiar with it, although I hope you are familiar with it when you're watching this video. Okay, we're going to change this up slightly over here for XLSX. So instead of read CSV, it's read Excel. So we're going to say read Excel. We'll just change this to Excel preview. My nice spelling. And again, st data frame. And then elif JSON, right? And we're going to change this up a little bit. Say data equals JSON.load. We're going to load up the uploaded file. Although you could quickly turn JSON into a data frame. Full video on the channel, by the way, if you want to learn how to do that. st.write, st.write, our JSON preview, right? And st.json, pass in our data. Now, I don't know if I have a JSON file ready to go for you guys, but I will upload an Excel file and find that. So we have over here is our new file uploader, and I'm going to just find a CSV really quick. Hopefully I have one nearby. All right, so I have this over here. So a document, top selling items for a website. And then it's going to say Excel preview on here, right? And obviously I want to clean this up, but regardless, right? Because that, you can see over here, we have expensive items and then set name unnamed. So data is not the fully cleanest on the side of things, but we're able to upload that Excel file. Now let me find a CSV. All right, and here is a CSV file from a race Forgotten Florida 50. I don't know what year this race was from. Actually, I think it was from a video I posted here on the channel. But place, person, first, last name, city, state, age, division, as well as the time. And then I don't have a JSON file ready for you guys, but that was Excel as well as a CSV file. All right, so now we can also validate files. So what we're gonna do over here, let's continue on this. So we're gonna have on this side of things, if uploaded file, like that, we're gonna say file size equals uploaded file dot size. We're gonna divide that by 1024, right? So we're looking for the size kilobytes. And say st.write, and we're gonna have an f string over here. So instead of me butchering this and having to redo this, file name, uploaded file name dot name, file size, right? We're just rounding this. That's why you have 0.2f, right? Then we're gonna say if file size greater than 500, st.warning. Remember we talked about warning. We're gonna say file is large, preview may be limited. All right, so we'll save that over here and rerun our Streamlit application. What I'll do is drag and drop that same CSV file for Forgotten Florida. And it's not a large file. So you can see over here, the size is 4.82 kilobytes. All right, so now let's take a look at our last example over here, which is caching. And we'll take a look at that on this side of things. So what we're going to say is and we're going to do st.cachedata. So cache dot cache data. All right. And we're going to say def, we're going to ask for a function, load large CSV. Right. And we're going to pass in a file on here. We're going to return pd.read CSV, which we have over here. Pass in the file on that side of things. Then we're going to say st.write, upload a large CSV for caching demo. And we're going to say large CSV equals st.fileUploader, file uploader, upload CSV for caching. We'll say it over here. Type equals our CSV, and then key equals large. If large CSV, df large equals load large CSV, our function that we created above. We're passing our large CSV. st.write cached CSV loaded. Say st.dataframe df large.head. Now, I don't have any really large CSVs to work with on this side of things. I'm also going to delete this. I'll show you this works as well. All right, so we define cache data. We have a function which returns the CSV, right? Read the CSV file. So just writing large CSV, we're uploading it, right? We set the key large. We have a large CSV. We go over here and load it, and we just write it to a data frame. So save that. I'm just gonna bring this in over here. I'm gonna refresh. I'm gonna drag in my file. And you can see this loaded like instantly, right? But really, really fast on that side of things. This is only a 5 kilobyte file, so it's minuscule, but just showing you guys on the demo side. So this section is going to take a look at a few different charts. So, and this is just built-in charts within Streamlit, right? No other external libraries at the first part. We'll also take a look at some of the other stuff a little bit later on, like matplotlib, seaborn, things like that. Again, so what we're going to do is importing pandas. So import pandas as PD. And we're going to import in numpy as NP. And we'll title the section st.title built in charts. Okay. We're going to say data equals pd.data frame. Data frame. Inside over here, we're going to say np.random.randn. We're going to say 20 to 3. We go over here and say columns equal. We'll have over here as A, B, as well as C. All right. I'm going to say subheader, st.subheader. I'm going to say line chart, st.line chart, and we're passing our data. Then we'll do next area chart and then bar chart. So what I'm just going to do is duplicate these. Let's see, area and bar. All right, and then just change these up to area and bar. Area and bar. Save it. Rerun. And so it'll take up a second. All right, so you can see we have our line chart built in, right? We have our area chart on here. And then we also have our bar chart. Again, you can save these, right? You can scroll, change how these look. And ABC. Again, very simple data, but just to show you, and you can also like horizontally scroll and everything like that. You can also make these full screen, right? Really, really nice that these are built in. But again, like with everything, you can always add a lot more complexity to it. So what we're going to do now is take a look at Plotly, and I'm just going to remove a lot of this over here. And yeah, so what we're going to do is keep on our data, and we'll do Plotly. So just import in Plotly. It doesn't matter if we put it at the top. Import Plotly, Plotly.express as px, st.subheader. And I guess I could have kept the other stuff, but it didn't really matter. Plotly demo, and we're going to go over here and say fig equals px.scatter. We're going to say data x equals a, y equals b, and then color equals c. We'll set title equals Plotly scatter. We're going to say st.plotly chart, and we'll pass in fig like that. All right, let's save this and Control S. And now if I refresh this and rerun it, should just have our Plotly demo. So no bugs. Might take a second. All right, there we go. And we have our scatter plot example, A, B, and we have C as the color. All right. All right, now let's take a look at Seaborn and Matplotlib. So we can add these up over here, or again, we can just go down over here. It doesn't really matter to me too much. We'll just import them over here. So import matplotlib.pyplot as PLT. And then we're going to say import Seaborn as SNS. Right. And I have a full Seaborn course here on the channel. Subheader on this, st.subheader. We'll start off with the Seaborn example, which I like Seaborn a lot. That's what I use mostly at work. Okay. We'll say fig as well as ax equals plt.subplot like that, or subplots. There we go. We'll do a histplot, so sns.histplot. We'll say data A. Say KDE equals true. X equals X. Then over here, we'll see st.pyplots and pass in our fig. should be fig here. Cool. Let me rerun this over here. All right, and you can see we have our Seaborn example over here with A, the count, and then the KDE added on top of it. All right, let's keep moving forward. What we're gonna do is take a look at some forms. So let's jump into that. So st.title, we're gonna go over here and say forms demo. So forms demo, and let's create a form. So we're gonna go over here and say with st.form, then we're gonna go over here and say contact form. All right. Then we're going to have over here a colon. Then we're going to jump into our next line, which is tabbed over. And we're going to say name equals, and we'll have st.text input, right? So text input like that. Grab a name. Then we'll keep going forward, do another text input. And let's say we want to grab an email. So grab that email. Then let's just keep going forward. Also, this needs to be changed to email. All right. Then next we'll have message. So message equals st.text area, pass in message, and then submitted equals st.form, submit button, and then pass and submit. All right, so we have that. And then what we're gonna do is say if submitted, and then over here, say st.success. We'll say f string, thanks, name, we will contact you at, I'm just passing the email. All right, so we have a form now over here for the forms demo. Then what we'll do is just take a look at this in Streamlit. So I'm just gonna rerun this over here. And you can see that we now have a form right here on this page, right? So you have name, email, message, and then you also have a submit button, and then thank you, we will contact you, right? And obviously it's blank because there is no email attached to it, right? All right, so let's keep moving forward now. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is another form demo, but we're gonna have logic associated with it. So we'll say forms demo like version 2. I'm just gonna erase a lot of that code and let's jump right into it. So we're gonna say is with st.form, we'll say calculator form, so calc form like that. Let's make this underscore form. All right, and jump into it. So we're gonna say number 1 equals st.text input, right? And then we're gonna say st.number input, and then we're gonna say enter first number, and I'm gonna set a step, and this step essentially shows you like how much it goes up each time if you want to change it. So we're gonna say step 1. I'm gonna copy this. We're gonna put number 2 here in a second. So number 2, right? Number input, enter second number, step 1 as well. And we're gonna say calculate. So calculate equals st.form, submit button, and we'll say calculate sum. So calculate sum. All right. And then we're gonna have over here. So if calculate, right? We're gonna have over here st.write. We're gonna say f results. num1 plus num2, like that. All right, and now let's save this and we'll go back into our Streamlit app. So I'm gonna rerun that. Cool. So what we have is 2 numbers. We're just gonna do a basic calculation. So let's say 5 and we'll have like 11. Calculate result 16. And again, the step, right, 1 makes it an integer. So you could just go like that, right? Calculate again, right? Same thing over and over again. And now, you essentially built out a calculator. All right. So now let's work a step-by-step workflow. Another really popular use case. I've had a client where we had to do this before. A little bit more advanced than this one over here, but that's fine. So step-by-step workflow. And what we're gonna do is say if step not in st.session state, like this, st.session state dot step equals 1. We're going to copy this a few times, so just to save some time. we're going to do name and choice. So name, we'll have choice over here. For name, choice, and then these are just blank like that. All right, so next what we're gonna do is create a function called next step. So we're gonna go over here and say def next step. So next step like this. All right, and then over here, we're gonna go and say st.session_state dot step. We're gonna say plus equal 1. All right, then we're gonna say def restart. And then over here, we're gonna do a few things. First, put the colon. So we're gonna go over here and say the state is 1, right? Name is blank. And then also our choice is blank over here too. All right, and then what we're gonna do is just walk through a process of going through all these different steps. So it should be pretty easy over here. So step 1 is we're gonna say if st.session_state like this .step equals 1. And then what we should probably do is just copy this as well. We're gonna do the same thing for 2 and 3, but we'll go over here and say st.write step 1, enter your name. All right, and then we're gonna go over here and say st.textInput. So text input, we're gonna grab it name, and we're gonna say value equals, we're gonna grab this over here, the st_session_state, right? And then we're gonna say key equals name. All right, and then we're gonna say st.button like that. And then we're gonna say next. And then we're gonna say on click, we're gonna go to next step equals next step, all right? Then what we're gonna do is like essentially repeat this. We're gonna make some modifications for 2 and 3. These are both gonna be elifs, so elif like that, elif, right? Make sure these are 2 and 3. Again, we'll have a little bit modifications. What we're gonna do over here is create an F string. So we'll have like an F string and we'll say hello and pass in our name, right? Which we just had over here. All right, so hello session state name, right? And we'll say step 2, choose your preference, like that, okay? And then we're gonna have over here as a radio, so st.radio, and we're gonna go over here and say choose a restaurant, so choose a restaurant. Probably misspelled that, but that's okay. And then our options are going to be either Chipotle or Moe's. So we'll go over here and say Chipotle or Moe's, like that. We'll say key equals choice this time. So key equals choice. All right. And then we're going to say st.button. We'll have next. And again, it goes to next step. And lastly, session state 3, right? We're not going to have any input on here, so we could remove that. And we're going to say on this side of things, an F string, we're going to say you selected, and we'll just grab over here our side of it, right? And we're going to grab our value, right? So this side of it, we can just grab our choice like that. All right. And then we'll have a restart button and just choose restart. And let's test this out. So restart. All right. So I just saved that. And what we'll do is click rerun. We'll just go over here and test this out. So Ryan, Chipotle or Moe's. I just had Chipotle today. You selected Chipotle. All right, restart it. Same thing. Ryan, nice spell in there. Let's go Moe's. You selected Moe's. And yeah, just very, very basic step-by-step workflow. Obviously, this can get quite complicated if you want to have 20, 30 steps. But yeah, that is how you do it. And yeah, let's move on to the next section. So our next example is going to take a look at using an API to plot Bitcoin prices. So let's jump into that. We're going to go over here and say import requests. And then we're also going to import pandas as PD. So import pandas as PD. Then let's get started. So we're going to set up a title. So st title. And we're going to call this Bitcoin price tracker. So Bitcoin price tracker. We're going to use something called CoinGecko. So CoinGecko. And also keep moving forward. So what we're going to do to get the current price is we're going to grab this URL. I'm just going to copy and paste it over here. So price URL. Again, you can just grab this link from my website where all this code will be published. All right. So now that we have the URL, right, we're getting an API over here, which you don't need to have any specific credentials. Some APIs you'll have to. This one you don't. Later in this course, we're going to go over one that uses Google Maps. You're going to have your own API for that API key. All right, so now what we're going to do is go to try, and we're going to say price response equal request dot get. We'll pass in over here the price URL, so price URL, and we'll do timeout equals 10. All right, we're going to do again price response. So price response dot raise for status like that. Again, we're going to go in over here and say price equals price response dot JSON. We're going to grab Bitcoin, so Bitcoin. And since I'm in the US, we're going to grab USD. So just go over here and do USD. All right. Also, why this is erroring, comma. All right, that's good there. Okay. What we're going to do now is say st.metric label equals Bitcoin price USD. Then over here we'll say value equals F. We're going to put in $1 over here. And then we're just going to paste in price like this. All right. And then what we're going to do is accept. So accept. And then over here I'll say request dot exceptions dot request exception as E. Let's say st.error. Put an F string over here. And then we'll say failed to fetch current price. We'll have the error in over here. All right. Then if we want to get some historical data, also this is an error because you need to have the double quote here at the end. Cool. All right. Then we're going to grab in some historical data. So we're going to say history URL equals, I'm just going to grab the historical data. I'm just going to paste that in over here. All right. And then what we're going to do is set some params. So params equal, and I'm just going to copy this in over here as well. Cool. All right. Up next, what we're going to do over here is another try except. So I'm just going to scroll down a little bit. So we're going to say try, and then we'll have except, just because except. All right. So on this try side of things, we're going to say history response equal, or say request dot get. Very similar, right? Your history URL, params equal params, and timeout equals 10. Then over here, what we're going to have next is history response equals, and we'll say, oh, sorry, not equals, but we're going to say dot raise for status. All right. And then what we're going to do is say prices equals history response dot JSON. We got prices like that. All right, go over here and say df equals pd.dataframe. Prices columns equal. Then over here we're gonna have timestamp and price. So timestamp and price like that. All right. And then we're going to have df date equals PD to date time, like that. df, we're gonna have timestamp, we'll have unit ms, unit equals ms. All right, and then we'll do a line chart. So st.line chart, so line chart, df, set index, dates, price, and I know I have an error. I'll fix this here in a second. Price needs to be capitalized. This needs to be df. All right, and then what we can do over here is very similar. st.error failed to fetch, and instead of current price, we'll put historical data. Historical data. Hopefully I have no errors. I'm just gonna refresh that over here, and we'll rerun this on this side of things. Actually, I do have one error. What we need to do on both of these, or not both of these, but on this one. All right, now we should have this working. And like I said, it's pretty common to work with APIs on this side of things. I do have another error. This date needs to be capitalized. Run one more time. Third time's a charm, right? All right, I just pasted in the code from earlier. Again, feel free to copy this from the website, right? Grab price URL, tries and accept, right? Just grab the data over there in historical records. But you can see we have the Bitcoin price tracker from CoinGecko. We have the Bitcoin price over here, which is currently 119,000. Man, I knew about Bitcoin when I was a lot younger, but I was still in school, so I couldn't really afford it. And I would never expected it to reach $120,000. But yeah, so external API, grab the data in over here, and that is working. So not too bad on that side of things if you don't make errors like I do. But yeah, we're going to jump into our next section now. All right, guys, so we're going to change things up on this side of things. First, I want to show you that I was able to change the theme on my Streamlit app to this over here. And I also have multiple pages. You can see localhost 8501, I have /contact /about, and then I have my home page with nothing changing over here. So what I want to quickly do is go through this for you guys on a few things, right? So if you're going to have multiple pages, right, you're going to want to set a folder called pages, right? And if you notice over here, I have about and contact, but then over here, right, I have 1_about, 2_contact. So Streamlit ignores that, the 1_2_, and puts them in that order, right? So make sure that you have your integer number underscore for the order of the pages that you want to have specifically. Again, if we go back into over here, right, I have home, about, contact. So your main app, right, your main page is over here outside this pages folder. And when you want to run your app, you go into this home.py or app.py or whatever the name is, and you can still access these other ones. That's what I personally do. Okay, next, you'll notice I have something called .streamlit under here, right? So that is another new folder. And under here, I have something called a config file, right? So config.toml. And inside over here, I just changed the theme settings, right? So you can see base, I set dark, primary color, background color, secondary background color, text color. And this will change up the whole format on this side of things. And one other thing I wanted to quickly note is you may have caching issues on your machine, right? So you may have to clear your cache to get this. I personally just threw this in a new incognito window just to show you guys because before I was recording it, the changes weren't being implemented. So I just put new incognito window, and you can see obviously this theme has completely changed, right? If I go here over to our theme settings and stuff like that, right? You can see we have a custom theme on here, right? We have light, dark, we have custom theme, use that. So this is a custom theme that I specifically have over here in this .toml file, right? So yeah, so that is essentially the first part of this. We're gonna have like 3 sections together over here, and I'm about to record part 2. All right, let me show you another way of navigation. So let's say we have different pages over here. We'll have pages equal, and then over here, we'll set home, dashboard, and settings. So home, dashboard, and settings. And this is probably better if you have like a simple app, but like as it gets complicated, personally, I prefer like you make other pages. So we're gonna go over here and say choice equals st.sidebar over here dot radio, and we're gonna go over here, go to, and then we're gonna go over here to pages, all right? And then we're just gonna go over here and say if choice equals home, right? We're gonna go over here and say st.header, go to our home page, so home page. Then we're gonna go over here to st.right, and say welcome. Next, we're gonna go over here as an elif, so elif choice equals dashboard, so dashboard like this. Again, it's gonna be very similar. So I'm just gonna paste these. Well, we're gonna make some modifications here in a second. Right, so next one will be dashboard, or not dashboard, but settings. We'll call this settings page, dashboard page. Put some colons here at the very end, right? And we'll change these up a little bit. User preferences here. And then lastly, we'll have metrics and charts here. And obviously I'm not filling these out, right? Metrics and charts here. Showing you some of the different options that you have. So just refresh that. What we're gonna do is rerun this over here. And then you can see what we have over here to the side, right? The buttons, so home, dashboard, as well as settings. And that's because we have specified that specifically, right, as a sidebar, and then also our radio button, right? So that way we have that here on the side. We can have one page here in the center with different sections if you want to have home, dashboard, as well as settings, right? So previously I showed you all the different pages. Here's one, you could just put them all together. All right, in this section, what we're gonna do is talk about reusable components. So what we can essentially do is create functions to create reusable UI. And yeah, let's jump right into it. So what we're gonna do over here is say def over here, show header, pass in the title. And then we're gonna do is st.markdown like this. Call it title. Right, and obviously, again, these are simplistic examples, but you'll get the point. We'll say def show metric, label and value, right? st.metric like that. Label equals label, value equals value. All right, and now let's take a look at reusing these, right? So we can have show header like this. Let's say we're gonna call this dashboard, right? Then we can have two metrics, right? So let's say we have show metric. We'll have one called revenue. And then we'll pass in over here 10,000. So we'll say 10,000 like that. And then we'll say like users as the next one. And we'll say like we have 1,000 users, right? Users, and we'll say we have 1,000 over here like that. All right, so you can see show metric again, twice used, and then header once. Okay, so save that. And then what we'll do is go over here, rerun this application, and you can see, right, we have our dashboard over here, then we have our revenue, and then we have our users, right? Reusable component for each of these on the side of things. All right, so this is gonna be the last section before we go into two different projects, which I'm kind of excited about. So first, what we're gonna do is we're gonna create a TOML file and do some formatting. So do .streamlit like this, right? And then go over here, config.tml like that. And what we're gonna do is just paste in some information, right? So what I'm gonna do is just grab this example, and I'm just gonna paste this over here. First, we're gonna define our theme. So we have that over here. Base, primary color, background color. Like there's a lot that you could update on this side of things. So set that up, right? change some server settings and as well as our browser. All right, so we have all of that in here now. So I'm just gonna save that. We're gonna go back to home.py. And what I'm gonna do over here is set a page title, icon, and layout. So I'm gonna set this under page config. So st.set page config, like this over here. Set a page title, right? So we're gonna start off with this over here and say page title equals my custom app, page icon equals, and we'll set a page icon over here. Layout equals wide. All right, and then we'll go over here, initial sidebar state. We'll say this is expanded. And then let me grab like emoji icon or something like that. Emoji icon. We'll grab like a dictionary or something like that. I'm just grabbing this over here. Let's just use this. Doesn't matter too much. I'll save this, and then what I'll do is load this up. And also I need commas here at the very end too. So make sure you do that. Rerun it again. And then you can see over here, right? We have this icon and we have the text over here that says my custom app. And yeah, so I think you guys are going to be ready for our next two projects. All we're going to be doing is taking a look at two more APIs, and we'll jump into it right now. All right, so now let's take a look at another project. I think this is going to be our second project here. And yeah, this is going to be a simple one with Y Finance. We're going to go to a little bit more advanced project right after this. So you're going to see back-to-back projects. Jump right into it. So we have Streamlit as ST. We're going to import in Y Finance. You're probably going to have to pip install it, so no worries on that. Then we're going to do import pandas as PD. And lastly, from datetime, import date. So once we have all that, we're going to set a page config. So we'll say st dot over here, set page config. Then we'll set a page title. So page title equals stock dashboard. You can set an icon if you want. I will just also say layout equals wide. All right, and set a title. So st.title, we'll say real-time stock dashboard. All right, then what we're gonna do next is set a sidebar. We're gonna use the sidebar for user input over here. So we're gonna say st.sidebar header. We'll call this stock settings. Then we'll set a ticker symbol. So ticker symbol equals st.sidebar.text input. Let's say enter stock symbol. By default, let's use Apple. I've used Apple in some videos and it's pretty easy to use. So Apple like that. Okay, set a period. So period equals st.sidebar.select box. Select period. And then set your period over here. So we can set a few different ranges. What I'm going to do is just set these up over here, which are kind of common. This in 1 day, 5 days, 1 month, 6 month, 1 year, and 5 year. Next, we're going to set an interval. We're going to say equals st.sidebar.select box. Then we'll say select interval. So select interval, and we'll do, again, just paste in some values over here. Okay, now what we're going to do is fetch data. So we're going to say ticker equals YF dot ticker. We're going to pass in our ticker symbol, which again will have default Apple, or you can choose another company. So that's our ticker symbol. And our data is going to be ticker dot history, pass in our period, period equals period, and then interval equals interval, interval equals interval. Now what we want to do is show the latest price. So we're going to go over here. I'm just going to scroll down a little bit. We'll say latest price equals data close the iLook -1. If not, data the empty, right? Else NA. So grab the last price, otherwise it's going to say NA. We'll set a metric. So st.metric label equals, we'll do an F string. We'll say current price, be a ticker symbol. Ticker symbol like that. Say value equals F string. Again, we'll put a dollar amount over here. Latest price, we'll round it. So 0.2F. I'm going to say if latest price is NA, else no data. I know I messed this up a little bit. I'm actually just going to copy this in. Here is the actual stuff, right? Current price, ticker. All right. And now let's build out a chart section. So we'll say st.subheader, put an F string over here and say price chart for ticker symbol. All right, then we'll say if not data.empty st.line t.line underscore charts, pass in data close, put over here else st.warning no data available for the symbol. All right, and lastly, we're going to use columns again. So column 1, column 2, column 3 equals st.columns, pass in 3 over here. Then we're going to say with column 1, we'll go over here, st.right, and I'm just going to paste in what I have over here. So I'm saying previous close, ticker info.get previous close. Then we'll do the same thing with volume column 2 as well as column 3. So I'm just gonna paste these in. Market cap this time around. And lastly, we're gonna get is 52-week high. All right, so we have all of these over here. Let me remove this additional column 3. And then we have one more thing we have to put in over here is st.caption refresh page for new interval, refresh page for updated interval, for updated data, or adjust interval. All right, so this should work, assuming no bugs. I'm just gonna refresh this dashboard over here and show it to you guys. So what we have over here is the real-time stock dashboard. So this is the 1 day period, right? Let's say I wanna choose 5 years and there's no data available because the interval is that. So we're gonna choose 1 day over 5 years. And you can see Apple has increased quite a bit. It started at $90 and right now it is at 214. We can choose 1 year, right? And you can see it's gone from 216 to 213. So you've made no money. 6 months. Let's choose like 1 hour. And you can see we'll choose something like 5 days. This is pretty flat line, maybe 1 month. change that up. You can see previous close of here, the market cap for Apple, as well as the 52-week high. And just like that, we built a real-time stock dashboard. If we want to put in another symbol, let's say something that doesn't exist, right? You'll see that we're going to say no data available, right? Because that technically doesn't exist. But again, you can choose a real company over here and get the results on this side of things. Let's choose another one. I think what we're going to do is Google ticker. What's Google's ticker right now? Goog. That's what I thought it was. I just wanted to double check. So let's say we use Google, right? And you can see how this has changed over time, right? Select interval, 1 year, but we're going to go change that up. And yeah, so that is our real-time stock dashboard that we just built out. Really not a lot of code. Hey guys, so this is going to be one of the 4 projects in the course. I don't know where exactly it's going to be at time of recording, but obviously you see it now. So let me give you a little context on this project and why I'm building it out. So my girlfriend is a nurse manager, so she has to set the location of different nurses as well as MAs at hospitals. And essentially one of her tasks to do is kind of like figure out the distance from a house into all these different types of hospitals to really help out with scheduling, right? There's a bunch of different locations, try to optimize for distance and time. So obviously I'm not going to show you exactly that project. I made a slight twist on it. So imagine you're going to take a look at a house in the Denver real estate market, and there's a few different locations that you want to be around. So essentially what you can do is add in an address of a house that is for sale and then see how far that house is from specific locations. And what I'm looking at location wise, right? And I'm just going to give you an example. Like if I moved to Denver, what I would want to be close to like the baseball team, a few different famous running routes, and then also some music venues, right? And all stuff I've talked about here on the channel. So I'm going to build this out. I'll show you how this works. And it's a pretty simple project, but if you think about it from the automation side of things, it saves a ton of time. All right, let's jump into it. So we're going to start off is doing our imports. So we're going to import pandas as PD. We're going to import in Streamlit as ST. So import Streamlit as ST. We're going to import in Google Maps. And then I'm also going to import in requests. And why I don't have these in over here for Google Maps yet? Well, to be honest with you guys, I set this up on my second computer. So let me pip install this really quick. And then all you got to do to pip install, just pip install Google Maps. Now I already have an API key ready, and I'll probably just cut to a video after this pip installs showing you how to get an API key for the side of things. Now I'm obviously not going to show you my API key on this. You can see this is installing right now, and this will go through. All right, and you can see it's done over here, so I'm just going to close this out. So now we'll have Google Maps. All right, so what I'm going to do first now is set up our API key. So I'm going to say API key equals, and then again, I showed you how to set up the API key, so you should have that. All right, next thing what we're going to do is we're going to set up different locations of places. And how I did this is I first go over here and I say Denver locations. Inside over here, we're going to have a list. And man, my spelling is on point today. So say locations like this, and we're going to set a list. Okay. And inside this list, we're going to have a dictionary for each location. So what we're going to do is have something over here and say location, right? And then what I'm going to have is the location name. So let's start off with a famous running route, which is going to be Pikes Peak. So Pikes Peak like this. They have something called the Pikes Peak Marathon. There's a YouTuber I used to watch that used to run it. I think it's kind of cool. Probably terrible with elevation right now because Florida's flat, but if I ever moved over there, that'd be kind of cool, right? So we have location, Pikes Peak, and then what I'm gonna do is set up an address. So what we're gonna do on this side of things is we'll say address, and address actually needs to be like this, address. Okay, and then put in the address, and I'm just gonna copy over this address, right? And again, like I've mentioned it a few times in this series, but all the code will be on an article on the website. So I'm gonna do this for a few other things as well. So what I'm going to do is Magnolia Road, another really, really famous place for runners. This is out in Boulder, I want to say. Two baseball things, right? So what we have next is grabbing Coors Field, where the Rockies play. And then also like a card show, because I like card collecting. So Denver Card Show. And then lastly, let's take a look at some music venues, right? For some good examples, Fillmore Auditorium, Mission Ballroom, and then Red Rock Amphitheater. So I think we're good on this side of things, right? Decent amount over here. I'm just gonna save that. Cool. All right, so again, just feel free to copy this on the website. So now what we're gonna do is set up a title for the page. So we're just gonna go to st.title, and then we'll say like house distance finder. I don't know, come up with a better name. And we're going to use the Google Routes API. So Routes API. And then we're going to put over here st.write, enter your starting address like this. Okay. And now what we're going to do is we're going to build out a form. So we're going to say with st.form like this, right? And we're going to call this an address form. So address form. And let's jump through on that side of things. We'll put a colon, and we're going to fill out each section. So we'll say streets equals an st.text input, right? And we're going to put in street address. All right. Then what we're going to do is city. So we're going to say city equals st.text input. And why I didn't specifically say like Denver or something like that. There's a lot of suburbs of Denver, so you don't want to specifically say one city, right? If you want to look something like that, you could, but I'm gonna make sure user puts that in. We'll put state equals, we'll put st.text input as well on there. And state could be a drop down and stuff like that, but that's all right. We'll just keep it like this. We'll just use everything as text input, right? Except for submission. I was gonna say we're on state now, then we have to do zip code. So we'll say zip code equals st.text input. And again, feel free to change this up as you want, right? This is just literally almost like 99% the same as what I've already built out, just changing up a few different things. We're going to say submitted equals st.form submit button like that. And we'll just say submit. All right, so this will get our information for the address on this page. Awesome. All right. What we're going to do next is say like, if this form has been submitted, right, we're going to have an action, right? So let's jump through that. So we're going to say if submitted, right? We're going to say user address equals, and we're just going to combine a few things together. So we're going to have an F string over here. We'll grab street, right? Then we'll have city. So city, comma, we'll have state, and then we'll have zip code like that. All right. And we're going to say st.success. And inside over here, we'll have another F string. We'll say calculating distances from, and then we'll just pass in this user address, right? We just built it out over here. We will pass it in. All right, so have our user address created. We have a success message now. And then what we're going to do is essentially build out a function to get the distance on this side of things. Now it can be a little bit complicated over here, but that's okay. So we'll say def, and we'll call it get distance miles. What we're gonna do is pass in the origin, and then we're gonna go to destination like that, right? I'm gonna say URL equals, and I'm gonna pass in this URL over here. So routes, Google APIs, directions, v2, okay? Then we're gonna set our headers and our body. So we'll go back over here on space, say headers equal, and then inside over here, we'll say content type. We're gonna pass in application JSON JSON. All right. Then what we'll have over here is X Goog field mask. And then inside we'll have routes dot distance meters. All right. Then what we're going to have next is our body. So body. And then on our body side of things, I don't know why I'm having an error there. Oh, I forgot a comma. There we go. All right. Body. I'm going to say this equals to, and inside over here, we'll have our origin. So origin like that. And over here, we'll say address. We'll call that the origin. All right. Then we'll have destination. Inside over here. Again, we'll just put address, we'll say destination. Forgot a comma there. All right. And then what we'll have next is travel mode. So travel mode, and we'll say drive for that. All caps, drive like that. Again, comma, which I don't know why I keep forgetting these today. All right. And then we're going to do a try except. So over here, we'll say try. And then we'll say response equal request dot post. We'll go URL headers equal headers, JSON equals body. We'll say response dot raise for status. Then we'll go over here and say data equals response JSON. Like that. All right. Meters equal data routes 0 distance meters. Then over here, what we'll have next is miles equals round meters divided by 1609.342. We'll return miles. Then we'll have over here except. Go back over here. Except. And we'll put exception as E. st.warning. And then we'll have a warning message. So we'll say f string error for destination. That's the error. And then we'll say return none. Return none. All right. None should be capitalized. Cool. All right. And now what we're going to do is essentially build out all of our results. So inside over here, we'll say results equal blank list. Or say for location in, and I renamed this over here to Denver locations. So in Denver locations, we'll say miles equals, we're going to get our distance in miles, right? Get our distance over here. First, we pass in the user address. So user address, right? And then we're going to do loc, and we're going to look for our address. So address like that. All right. And then we're going to say results.append. And then over here, what we're going to do is look through here. We're going to say our location. It's going to be, again, our loc over here. And we'll say our location. That. Our address. It's going to be loc address. And then we'll have distance miles is going to be equal to miles. Let's make these also capitalize. All right. And then lastly, what we're going to do on here is create a data frame. So we'll say df equals pd.dataframe results.setIndex location. And then what we're going to do next is go over here to df2.sortValues. So what I want to do is see the distances between all the different places. We'll say distance miles. All right. And then this should be df2 equals df sort values. There we go. And then what I'm going to do is say st.dataframe and df2. All right. So a lot of code here involved with the API side of things, right? But in reality, what I'm using Streamlit is we're going to display this data frame, right? We're taking in a form submission, and then we're giving the title, writing this, right? So what I'm going to do is set in my API key. I'm going to run this, and I will be right back. All right, so now I'm going to submit this, and it's going to calculate the distances between all these locations. You can see like Denver Card Show, Mission Ballroom, Coors Field, Fillmore Auditorium, Red Rock, Magnolia Road, and then Pikes Peak, which I think I understand. Pikes Peak is like really, really far away. What is that? Maybe like Colorado Springs. Again, I'm not too familiar with how Denver is built out. But yeah, so you can see locations across the board from each of these over here. Magnolia Road makes sense because Boulder, I want to say, is what, hour outside of Denver. Again, just a very quick example for you guys. Again, like you can change up all these different addresses. And what's nice, like you can change this over here. So like you change the order, like we already showed this on this side of things, right? So distance up, distance as it is, right? And you can also export these, right? So like imagine you wanted to go through and, you know, compare 20 houses, right? Download as CSV and put that into a spreadsheet. And obviously, like if you're going to compare 20 things, there's other ways to build this out. But, you know, you still have this option. You can just download this as CSV and then start adding that into a bigger Excel file. Anyways, that was this project. Pretty easy one overall, but obviously you can see the time saver on this side of things. Again, if you're looking for a house, you could save this. If you're trying to set what locations employees need to work at, if you have like multiple locations, this could help as well. And I'm sure there's like a ton of other use cases on this side of things too. But these are the first two that I thought of. All right, let's take a look at a little bit more advanced version of session state. So I'll say st.title advanced session state demo. And we'll go back to our count example. So we're going to say if count not in st.session state. We're going to say st.session state.count equals 0. Then we're going to have buttons to increment or decrease our session state. So another if. So if st.button increments make that capital I like that. st.session state .count plus equals 1. Then we're gonna have another one where it subtracts, or not subtracts, but sets to 0. Let's say equals 0, and we're gonna just have this as reset. So reset, and then we'll print out our results. So we'll say st.write f current count, and then over here we'll have our session state. So we'll say st.session state.count. All right, so we have all that now, and then I'll just show you guys the app. So what we have is a current count of 0, right? And we can increase this 1, it resets back. Let's increase this every time. And again, we want to reset it, it goes back. And again, we can just reset. Every time we click reset, it goes to 0. Every time we increment, it goes up +1. All right, so let's take a look at third-party components. So what we're going to need to do is first, obviously, import Streamlit as st. Then what we're going to have to do is we're actually going to have to pip install something. And I already have it on this machine. But we're going to say from Streamlit Lottie like this, or Lodi. I don't know actually how to pronounce that. Import st Lodi. So make sure that you pip install that. So if you remember at the beginning of the video, we opened command prompt and pip installed. So make sure that you have that as well. And then what we're going to do is import in requests, right? So I'm just going to see over here, import in requests. Okay. And then we're going to say over here, st.title, say third party components like this. And what we're going to do is load in a component. So what we're going to go over here, say def load Lottie URL like this. We're going to pass in a URL, and it should, man, my spelling across the board. This should be def. That's why. Okay. And then we're going to say is r equal request dot get. We're going to pass in a URL. Then we're going to say if r dot status code, and we're going to have over here equals 200, which means it's success, right? You'll learn that if you watch my web scraping videos. Highly suggest that. We're going to say return r.json like this. Okay. And then else, right, we're going to return none. So return none. Okay. And now what we need to do is get our URLs. So what we have over here is the Lottie URL. Okay. So this is what we're going to be loading in. And then we'll say Lottie JSON. So Lottie JSON equals load Lottie URL, and then go in here and say Lottie URL, which we have over here. I have a typo on there. I'm just going to fix that really fast. All right, so that's over here. I'm going to say st Lottie, Lottie, matter. And then we'll pass in this JSON. And then what we're going to do is set a height. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is save this. Our site will save as 200. We will save this file. And let me show you what this looks like over here. So save. And what this looks like, let's see over here. And you can see we have this over here that has been loaded in, right? So all we need to do on this side of things is get the URL on this side of things for a Streamlit component, load this in, and then set the height, right? So load Lottie URL. So all we have to do then is essentially have our URL, load this in, and we are good to go. Also, you can build out your own Streamlit components. It is outside the scope for this video, but if you go over here to GitHub, right, there's a component template and stuff like that. So feel free to read over this and build out your own templates. There's enough people that want it. Maybe we'll make a video on Streamlit components, a lot more and different things like that, but feel free to read the documentations. Again, outside the scope for kind of like this beginner video. But yeah, let's jump into our next section. All right, now let's take a look at multi-tab or segmented views. So we're going to do on here is say st.title. We're going to say multi-tab. So multi-tab example. And then we're going to set our tabs. So we'll go over here and say tabs equal st.tabs. And we're going to set a few different tabs. We'll have a summary. So summary. Then we'll have details. Then we'll have settings like that. All right. Let's say with tabs, we'll have 0 over here. st.header summary. st.right. Overview. Content here. Then we can set our next tab. So what we can do is just duplicate these. Remember, we start with 0 because Python starts with 0. So we'll go over here and say 1 and 2. We'll do details and settings. So details, well, settings. And then you can say something like user preference here. and then like detailed info goes here. All right, we will save that, and I will load up my Streamlit application. And you can see you have different types of tabs over here, which can be useful, right? All of this is in one code rather than different pages, right? So you can see like the URL doesn't change. But yeah, there is multi-tabs. All right, now let's take a look at a drill down example. Imagine you have a lot of data and you only want to show parts of it depending on what's selected from a data frame. Let's do that. So import pandas as PD. And just to mention, like, this is super common. In fact, I just implemented something like this at my full-time job last week. So anyways, what we're going to do is create a data frame. I'm just going to pass in the values over here and let's jump into it. So we have data equals PD data frame, category, right? A, B, C, subcategory A1 through C2, and a random value. Again, you can just copy this code from the website. I'm not going to waste your time writing out a data frame like that. Okay, so now what we're going to do is set a category. So category equals, we'll do a select box. So st.select box like this. All right, and then we're going to select the category. So select category, right? And then we're going to pass in data category, and we're just going to grab the unique values, right? Unique like this. Okay, so it'll only show A, B, or C, right? Because those are unique. And I need to actually put parentheses here at the very end. Okay, then we're going to have filtered. So filtered equals data inside over here, data category. So category like this. I'm going to say this is equal to category. So category like that. All right, and then let's write our category outs. So st.write, and we're going to do an f string. We'll say values for category. We'll pass in our category like that. And we're going to say st.table and filtered. Man, wonderful spelling, but that fixes it. All right, so I'm going to refresh that over here. I'm going to refresh the Streamlit application. And you can see, like, we have this table over here. We select category A, right? You only see A. Then we go over here to B. Then we have B. This also has the index value of where these are at, specifically in the data frame, right? And you can see category B, subcategory in the values, and then C, right? C, C1, C2, and then 94 or 75. All right, let's take a look at some custom CSS theming on here. So what I'm gonna do is just set a title for this page. We'll say custom theme example. And we're gonna do this through Markdown. So I'm gonna just set up st.markdown. All right, like this. Okay, and what I would recommend, at least when you're doing CSS themes, right? If you don't know CSS, just ask ChatGPT. This is the colors I'm looking for, this type of theme. Can you generate this code for Streamlit? Probably the easiest. But what I'll do over here, put our 3 double quotes. We'll set up a style. So we'll say style like that. And we'll do a dot class. We'll do .css, and also this needs to be tabbed over, just so it looks nicer. .css 1 AUMXHK, and then we'll have over here, it's like this, and we'll set a background color, so background color, and then I'm just gonna paste this in over here. All right, then what I'm gonna do next is another thing for button, and this should be CSS, not CCC. I'll say st button here, button inside over here. What we'll say is background color, Again, I'll just paste this in. Right, let's say color white. We'll close out our style. Like that. I'll probably end up also just copying over my code. Close that out, and we'll say unsafe allow HTML true. Then what we'll do is outside of here, we'll set a button. So st.button, styled button, styled button. Okay. And what I would recommend is if you want to have a global theme, you set it outside, but this is just one button over here. What I'm also going to do is just copy and paste this just in case I have any errors. You can see same code I talked about, right? I'm just worried that I have an error, I have to debug it. Anyways, I'll save that. I'll load up over this button. Obviously it's not a great theme, but you can see it's like a green button with white text over here, and that is a styled button. All right, so this is going to be a very basic version of password protection. Now, personally, I would recommend using OAuth. It's going to be probably a little bit outside the scope for this video, but yeah, what we're going to do is just set something password protected. So first thing we're going to do is still use this .streamlit over here. I'm going to go over here and do a new file. And then what we're going to do is go over here to do secrets.toml like this. All right. So next what we're going to do is we're going to define auth. We're going to say auth like this. And then we're going to set a password. So we're going to say password equals, and we're going to set everyone's favorite password like this. Obviously, in a real app, you don't want to have a password that just is password. But since we're just doing it on this side of things, there's that. Okay, so now we just go back into our home.py. And what we're going to do is have a password input, right? So we're going to say password input, word input equals st.text input. So text input like this. And we're going to say enter password. So enter password, and we're going to say type equals password, type equals password like this, password. Okay. Then what we're going to do is say if password input equals st.secrets, and then we're going to say auth. So like this, auth, and our password, right? Then what we're going to say over here is st.success. And we're going to go over here and say access granted. So access granted. And then we're going to say st.rights protected content in here. Else st.warning. Enter in the correct password, right? So again, super basic authentication. Definitely don't recommend this, but yeah. All right, so what we have over here, we have no password. So it says enter the correct password. So what we're gonna do is go over here and say password. I'm gonna press enter, and then it says access granted protected content in here over here. And yeah, just like that, set it up in your secrets, right? Auth password. Like that. And you can look at OAuth. There is OAuth both in Google as well as Microsoft. So feel free to go whatever route you want on that side of things if you're going to have people within your org log into your Streamlit application. All right, so now what we're going to take a look at is user roles. So let's jump into this code over here. So what we're going to set up is if user role not in st.session state like that. We're going to say st.session state that user role equals none. All right. Then what we're going to do is build out a login section. So we're going to say def login. We'll pass in user. We're going to say roles equal. And we're going to have two roles over here. Well, let's say we have an admin role. So we have admin like that. And we'll just call this as admin. And then what we're going to have next is user, who's going to be a viewer, right? Viewer like that. All right. And then we're going to go st.session state that user role. And this is going to be equal to roles.get. And we're going to have user and viewer. So like that. All right. Then what we're going to do next is set this up. So what we need to do is user equals st.text input, and we're going to set our username to that. So we'll say username, and then what we'll say next is if st.button login. Then we're gonna go over here and say login the user. So login user, right? And then what we'll have next is we'll say if st session state, so session state dot user role equals admin, st.success, and we'll have over here welcome admin, you have full access, and then we're going to say elif, and we're going to do viewer this time, so just feel free to copy this over here, viewer, st.info, go over here, welcome viewer, you have limited access, and then maybe we'll do st right for both these. We'll see st right, and we'll go over here and say viewer content, and then we'll do the admin content up there too. See admin content like that, and then we'll say else st.warning, we'll put over here please log in like this. All right, so I'm gonna save that, and then what I'm gonna do is rerun this over here. So you can see I have this login system on this side of things. Let's say I do 3100V, right? Welcome viewer, you have limited access, because we are not an admin right now, and then it populates the viewer content down below. If I refresh this, right, we can't see anything. It just says please log in, which in our code it says right over here, please log in. All right, so now what we're gonna do is go over downloading CSVs, spreadsheets, PDF files, different things like that. So what we're gonna do over here is import pandas as PD, pandas as PD. From IO, import bytes.io, and then import base64. All right, so what we're gonna do is st.title, we're gonna say export data demo, nothing really too crazy over here. We're going to say df equals pd.dataframe, like that, pass in a dictionary. Again, doesn't really matter too much. We'll say name, right? Put in some names over here. Alice, Bob, Charlie. Then what we'll do next is we'll have like miles over here, like their weekly mileage for running, 50, 60, 70. Okay, then we'll put over here as like races. So races, and we'll say like 5, 10, 15. All right, again, nothing really too special on that side of things. We have all of these, awesome. And then what we'll do next over here is say st.dataframe, dataframe like that. All right, and we'll pass in df, right? Also, why am I having an error over here? And my error, of course, is forgetting the colon over here. So should be fine now on that side of things, right? Anyways, what we're gonna do is a CSV download on this side of things, as well as our Excel. So CSV, we'll put over here, CSV download, and CSV is so easy, right? CSV equals df.toCSV, go over here and say index equals false. We'll encode it, encode like that. Then we'll go over here, st download button like that. Say download CSV. Then we'll go over here to CSV. Then we'll have over here is data.csv, and then we'll say text/CSV, text/CSV like that. All right, and then what we're gonna have next over here is our Excel download. So we'll do over here Excel download. We'll create a function on this side of things, and we'll say def to Excel like that. Pass in data frame, and then we'll say output equal bytes IO equals bytes IO like that. All right, then we'll say with PD to Excel writer like this. Then we'll say output like that. Engine equals XLSX writer. Thank you for putting that in over here as writer. Say df.to Excel writer index equals false. Sheet name equals sheet 1. Then what we'll do next is go over here and say processed data equals output.getValue. And then we're going to return our process data. Return process data like that. All right. And then we'll just print this out, or not print this out, but download this. So say Excel data equals to Excel df. And then what we'll do next is st download button like that. Say download Excel data.xlsx. And then what I'm going to do is paste in this value over here. All right, so now we should be fine on this side of things. So if I rerun this over here, you can see we have two buttons, download CSV, download Excel. I click these, data CSV, and then we have data Excel over here. Right, so we have both these over there. And actually I need to fix that. It's XLSE, it should be XLSX. You can see it's just a typo, but regardless, those have been downloaded on that side of things. All right, and now let's take a look at a PDF download, right? So we can do on that side of things, and I'm just gonna clear this up over here. All right, so for our PDF side of things, what we're gonna do is import in one more thing. So say from fpdf, right? We're gonna bring in import fpdf. Try saying that really fast. I'm gonna say PDF equals fpdf, tongue twister again, pdf.add page, add page like that. PDF set font. We'll go over here to Arial. Size equals 12. Size equals 12. And we're gonna say for I and row. Terrible typing. For I and row in df.iterows, which by the way, that video is coming out soon. It's one of our last videos in this initial pandas series. We'll say pdf.cell. I'm gonna pass in this data over here instead of just typing it all out. All right, and then what we're gonna do next is go over here and say PDF output. And I know I need to go back and re-add my data frame in, I know. But regardless, we'll have PDF output over here equal bytes.io, bytes.io, right? PDF, the output, put over here PDF output, and then lastly PDF bytes like this equals PDF output get value, and then what we'll do is just have a download button, st.download button, download PDF bytes. Then we have report.pdf and then application JSON, not JSON, but application PDF. This should be in quotes, so make sure to fix that. All right, what I'm gonna do is just grab all of that. I'm gonna Control Z. Well, actually, it should be fine. All right, and then we just put this here. Hopefully I didn't mess up that copy. That'll be annoying. Cool. And then we just bring in the download, the import PDF. And I'm just going to rerun this over here. Do you have an error? Oh, my error. I changed up this data frame a little bit. So I put names, miles, and races instead of what its original thing was. So name, we'll put miles and races. So I'll put that over here. Cool. This should work now. The way I should fix it, I believe. Standby. PDF bytes, PDF output. All right, let me just refresh this. All right, so let me go back over here on this side of things. And then you can see report.pdf. We have this data frame that we uploaded now into a PDF file. I just had to change a few lines of code. So that will obviously be in the final article, right? So my mistake on there. And yeah, so that's your PDF download. Also, we can have a file upload history. So let's go into that side of things. I'm just gonna separate this over here. I almost put it in a different section. Regardless, we'll go in there and we'll say st. Actually, we don't need any of this anymore. I'm gonna say that and it's gonna be the same thing where when you go there. But regardless, we'll do over here and say st.title, file upload history, file upload history. All right, and then we're gonna say if uploads not in st session state, st.session state for here, the uploads equals a blank list, right? So we have that over here. Then we're gonna say uploaded file equals st.fileUploader. We're gonna just put upload a file like that. Then we'll go over here next and say if uploaded file, right? We're gonna say st.session state .uploads append, uploads.append, right? And then what we're gonna append in over here is the file name. So file name, uploaded file.name, size, uploaded file.size, and then we'll have type. So type here, uploaded file.type, and then we'll go over here and say st.success, uploaded, and then we'll go over here and say uploaded file.name. Then over here and say st.write, upload history, and we'll go over here st table, st.session state, and I need to fix this, session state uploads like that. We'll just fix that st.table, and this should be fine. Rerun, and what I do is refresh this as well. All right, so you can see my upload history is empty. I'll browse files, go over here and just search PDF really quick. And you can see like maybe I grab SGC, right? And it says SGC sub, then I'll do PDF again. I don't know, grab something else. Packing slip for CGC. And you can see both of these are in here for this upload history. This section is going to talk about handling longer running tasks and how you could display this with spinners, right? And progress bars. So let's jump into that. We're going to import Streamlit as ST. So Streamlit as ST. We're going to import it in time as well. And let's jump right into it. So I'll say st.idle long running tasks and jump right into it. So we're going to say with st.spinner. We're going to say processing. Please wait. Then inside over here, we're going to have a colon, and then we're going to say progress bar bar equals st.progress, and we'll say 0. And then what we'll have over here is for I in range to 100, we're going to say time.sleep. So time.sleep 0.05. And then what we'll have next over here is progress bar dot progress, say I plus 1. And then lastly, what we'll have over here at the very end is st.success and write task completed. Okay, so I'm gonna save this. I'm gonna grab my Streamlit app over here. I'm gonna rerun this over here. Not sure why I had the error the first time, like it was nearly identical code, but it looks like I misspelled progress. But anyways, you can see that this worked. I'll refresh it one more time. And you see processing, please wait. We have this bar going across the board and task completed, right? It's pretty awesome on that side of things. Okay, so what we're gonna do next is we're gonna take a look at an async example. So I'm gonna just remove this over here. And we're gonna say import async, like that. And we're gonna say st title, async example, sample, right? Then we're gonna say async like this. We're gonna say def async task. And then over here, we're gonna say for I in range of 5, so here, st.write, we have f string, async step, we're gonna say I plus 1, await, async yo.sleep, plus 1, no h over there. Then we're gonna say on this side of things, async yo.run, async task like that. All right, I'll put a success message, success, async task done. All right, so now this is gonna be our async example. We go over here, we rerun this, right? Step 3, step 4, step 5, and then it says async task done. All right, sweet. So that works over here. And now let's take a look at our last example, which is queue-based background tasks. So I'll just go over here and we'll put on there, say queue-based background tasks. And then all we have to do over here is set a cache resource. So st cache resource, like that. They're gonna say def, like that, expensive task, pass in x over here like that. We'll say time.sleep, pass in 5, and we're gonna say return result for input x. All right, then what we're gonna do next is input value equals st.input, enter something. We're gonna say if st.button run task, with st.spinner, st.spinner running task in queue result equal expensive task, like that. Input val, then we'll say over here st.success, and then we'll say results, like that. All right, so run this really quick just to show you guys what this looks like. Have a typo. This should be text input. It's been a day, guys, so sorry for my errors, but I've been recording for a few hours, not just this video, other videos as well. All right, so this should be fine. We go over here and rerun this now. All right, so enter something. I'll just say that, And then you can see running task in queue, running, it says expensive task, right? And then we have our results. So essentially we had this load for a few seconds and then the results are essentially here. We didn't do any calculations or anything really crazy that side of things, but yeah. So those 3 different ways you could take a look at that for handling like longer loading tasks. All right, so this section I'm not actually going to code out, but I just want to say it is quite common to work with SQL databases with Streamlit. So I've actually worked with 3 different databases on this side of things. So at work, I use Redshift SQL. I just completed a project recently with MySQL. That was a local database, right? So taking different stock trades, putting that into a MySQL database, and then showing them specifically on a Streamlit application. Really fun project, by the way. And then what I'm working on right now deals with BigQuery, right? So tables in BigQuery, the SQL queries are already written, but they need to be shown in a Streamlit dashboard. So again, you can work with a lot of different databases out there. What I recommend is just looking into the connector into your database, right? Most of the time you'll be grabbing data from those, but you could also write data into your database as well. One thing to note also when you're working with databases, like don't publish this into Streamlit Cloud. You would want to have like a private publishing on this side of things, right? So just keep that note on that side of things, like run it locally if you just want to have it locally, right? Or have it secured because you don't want to have people have access into your database. But regardless, right, like you can just go through this code in the full article and take a look at MySQL, but it is quite common. And personally, I like taking our SQL queries, turning them into data frames, and then performing any types of transformations that need to happen. But yeah, this is going to be the small SQL section. Maybe I'll have like a longer video talking about SQL in Streamlit if people are interested in it. Obviously, this would take a lengthy amount of time connecting everything like that, and then I got to deal security. But there's enough interest, let me know. But yeah, this is just kind of like a basic overview of Streamlit course. We're going to move into the next section now. All right, let's go through our AI example. So first, what we're going to do is we're going to create a secrets over here. So I'm going to go with new folder, remember .streamlit. And then I'm going to go inside over here and create a new file called secrets.toml. And what we're going to do is we're going to set in our OpenAI API key. Now, all I'm going to do is say OpenAI API key, paste in your API key here. I'm going to do that now for my key. Remember, double quotes here at the end, put your key inside over here. I'm not going to show you my key though, so can't see that. But just save the file once it's ready, right? Save it, and then you can just close it out. So I'm going to enter in my key now, and I will be right back. All right, so now on our home, let's build out a few things. So we're going to say import OS, import Streamlit as ST. We're going to say from LangChain.chat models, import chat OpenAI. From LangChain chains, import conversation chain. From LangChain.memory, import conversation buffer memory. All right. Then we're going to say st.title. We're going to say AI chat assistant. Again, we're going to build out a very basic version of this. Okay. Then we're going to load in our API key. So all we have to do is say os.environ, like that. We're going to grab our OpenAI API key. So OpenAI API key like this. Okay. And we're going to say this is equal to st.secrets. So pass that in. And then again, it's our OpenAI API key. So we'll just grab that. All right. So we're good to go over there. Then we're going to say if memory not in st.session state, right? All right, and then underneath we're going to define our large language model. So LM equals, and we'll go over here to chat OpenAI. We'll set a model name, so model name equals, and we'll put like GPT-4o, and set a temperature. I'm just going to say a temperature equals, so I'll put like 0.1. Again, your temperature can go from like, you're from 0 to 1. So I'll just put like 0.1 on that side of things. And also why I'm getting this error, I misspelled chat OpenAI above. Okay. And then we're going to have some similar code to this. So we're just going to set this for our chain. I'm going to say our chain over here. And then we're going to go over here and then say our conversation chain. So conversation chain, we'll pass in our LM. So LM equals LM. And then we'll set our memory. So memory equals st.session state. And then we're going to have dot memory. All right. Like that. Cool. Okay. Now what we're going to do is have an input form. So we're going to say with st.form. And by the way, no worries if you don't understand all the AI stuff right now, right? Mainly just building out Streamlit apps. So chat form. So chat form over here. We're going to say clear on submit equals true. Okay. Then what we're going to do is have user inputs. So user input equals st.text input. Say u over here. And then we'll say key equals user inputs, user input like that. And we'll have submitted equals st.form submit button. Like we have that over here, and we'll just say send. All right, so we are good there. Awesome. Then after this, what we're going to do is run our chain. So we're going to go over here and say if submitted and user input, go over here and say response equals st session state dot chain dot run our user input. And then over here, st.session state last response equals response. If st.session state memory buffer buffer st.markdown, say conversation history for a line in st.session state dot memory dot buffer dot strip dot split new line. All right, and then what we're going to do over here like that is say if line dot strip. We're going to go over here and say st.write line. All right, so now we just save that. We run this over here, and this should be clear on submit, not clean. Here we go. Make sure that's clear on submit. All right, I'm going to rerun that. And now we have this over here. What is the most popular Black Sabbath song without Ozzy? And it should be Heaven and Hell. Have a small error. I'm going to fix this really fast. I just pasted my example code for this one. I will rerun that. And then let's rerun this over here. All right, so now what I'll do, what is the most popular Sabbath song without Ozzy? And I'll say Heaven and Hell by Ronnie James Dio. There we go. Which he did at some other albums also with Black Sabbath. But Dio has also passed away, so no more Black Sabbath. Although I think Sabbath had 3/8 singers. But regardless, I don't think they'll more Black Sabbath. So yeah, that is our conversation. Let's say over here, name another popular song for Black Sabbath without Ozzy or Dio. Let's see what it tells us. And you can see the conversation history is still here. The Shining, released in 1987, which features Tony Martin as the lead vocalist. Is Tony Martin still alive? There you go, look. So technically, Tony Martin could do a Black Sabbath reunion. I don't think it'll ever happen. But regardless, on that side of things, right, I showed you how we could build out a very quick AI chat assistant with memory. Oh, one other thing I should say is you should probably put invoke rather than run. I remember they deprecated run on this side of things. So make sure you use invoke, and I'm going to also update my code on that. Hey, you made it to the end of the video, so I appreciate you checking it out. And if you found it valuable, which I hope you did because it's a very long video, make sure to subscribe to the channel. And again, if you are a business and you need any help with Streamlit, I'm going to put my link down below in the description. If you're someone that is already in data and you're looking for other Streamlit projects, I'll link a few of other videos that I've done on the channel down below, so that way you can go through them, maybe add them into your portfolio. Anyways, thanks again for checking out this video, and I will catch you guys in another one.